Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Goochland County School Board. It is Monday, March the 8th. Our first business this evening will be policy update, first read of several policies, and Dr. Raley is going to assist us with this. Thank you, Dr. Raley.
Sure, yes, thank you, Mrs. Horn. So we have several policies presented for you this evening for your first review. As always, Ms. East has provided an explanation of those policies in your packet, and I would recommend that we start with all the policies that begin with the letter B. These relate to the conduct of our school board meetings, the qualification of board members, our expectations of public participation in board meetings. As you can see in your explanation sheet, many of these are non-substantive, and so minor changes associated with these. We did make one minor change later on this afternoon. We had a cross-reference that had at in it instead of during, or during in it instead of at, so we made that minor modification, so that might be something that you didn't see upon first review, but again, very minor, just bringing all of our cross-references in line with what they should be, and happy to answer any questions related to policies beginning with letter B.
Any questions, board members? Remember, your mics might not be on yet. Okay, awesome.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy BBBA, BDDC, BDDH, and then I believe we're repealing, is that correct? Or no, also BDDHR. That is on first reading tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the policies as Mr. Wright presented in the B policies. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Dr. Raley, our next group.
Yes, and board members, we should have wrapped in the other two policies associated with that, KD and KD-R, as they are sister policies as well. So recommending your approval as they were the same policy, just changing the title, the name.
Madam Chair, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve policies KD and KD-R on first read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next.
Yes, board members, policy JM, this is a minor revision, and what this policy revision is recommending is that we take what was in the third bullet, move it into the second bullet, and so this is in line with what our school board attorney related to special education is recommending. It reads a little weird with others being the last word in the first bullet and persons being the last word in the second bullet, and we consulted with our attorney whether or not we should have those words match, and his recommendation was that we leave it as presented because this is how it's written in the state documentation. So this is a policy that was received a lot of scrutiny across the Commonwealth, and this is a minor revision, but we want to make sure that we're in line with what is recommended from legal counsel.
Thank you, and I know that we did a lot of work on this in January. Dr. Wagner got this policy up to date for us with all the laws and regulations, our legal references, and you can see there's numerous cross-reference. So very important policy, very sensitive matter, so I appreciate all the attention to it and the changes that have been made. Board members, are there any comments on this policy?
Madam Chair, I move to approve JM as presented.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve policy JM, restraint and seclusion of students on first read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? It's easy to forget when you already say it, isn't it? Okay, great. Next policy, sir.
Yeah, the last two policies are related to professional development, policy GCL and GCL-R, and you can see on GCL where the recommendation is to make reference to our equity policy that the board has approved, and there may be an opportunity to reword this a little bit so that it flows a little bit better and put the cross-reference, the actual policy number in the cross-reference section. Late this afternoon, Dr. Fowler, who supports our equity work, made a recommendation for how we might be able to phrase that better and flow a little bit better and incorporate some of the inclusive nature of our work. So there may be a way to rephrase this a little bit better to make it flow for the reader.
Okay. Board members, I have been communicating with Dr. Raley on my desire to add language supporting this statement, emphasizing culturally responsive pedagogy and historically inclusive content. We know that this is a major emphasis in education, and we certainly want to highlight it in our professional staff development. If it is something that we expect our teachers to live, then it is something that we need to commit to offering. So the suggestions, the suggestion for the first change would be in the I that you see in the red, instead of how it is reading, these changes. To support culturally responsive teaching practices in order to eliminate predictability of student outcomes based on race, gender, zip code, ability, socioeconomic status, or home language. And then rather than having GB, the equity policy in I, we put that in the cross references. So that is one change that I was suggesting. So basically it is adding in front of, instead of school board policy to eliminate predictability, we're saying to support culturally responsive teaching practices in order to eliminate predictability. And then a second change would be on the second part of the policy where you see, in addition, the board provides teachers and principals with high-quality professional development programs each year in I there, instead of just instructional content, changing that to say inclusive instructional content. So, anyone have any thoughts on that?
Actually, I like both of those things. So obviously that's we already had stricken the VSBA off of
Yes.
this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Raley, we're certainly pointed to handle procedurally the things in that manner, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the work that's being done. Do you agree that that is, that those changes are appropriate?
It aligns with our equity policy, it aligns with the work that the board has done this year with the establishment of your goals and the resolution that was established in June of this past year. So it certainly is something that we are doing in practice, and this puts that in policy as well, so it aligns.
Okay.
The other notation in this policy, board members, is as you can see, that all of our instructional staff will be trained on how to be more aware of the mental health needs of our students. And so that's certainly something that has been aligned with our strategic plan as well. So both of these items that you're seeking revision on directly relate to Engage 2026 and the goals associated with that.
Doesn't that last item also align with legislation,
Yes, ma'am.
recent legislation from the General Assembly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy GCL as amended by Madam Chair, and that we repeal policy GCL-R.
A
on
second.
first reading.
Very good, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve GCL on first read with the amendments made, and policy GCLR that is being repealed. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Sorry.
Opposed? All right, great, thank you. Great job, Dr. Raley, thank you so much. All right, so, board members, that was good that we were able to get that done, because we do have quite a bit of business to take care of in our closed meeting. And our regular meeting will then begin at 6:30, so, Mr. Newman, could
Madam
you
Chair,
please?
I move that the Goochland County School Board convene a closed meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in order to discuss and consider the superintendent's contract, personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation of employees of Goochland County Public Schools, and the appointment of an interim District 2 board member, including applications received under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1.
So,
Madam Chair, I second that.
great. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are in closed meeting. Good evening, everyone. We're so happy to see so many faces. It's very exciting. We are coming out of our closed meeting, so I need to read a certification, and I do need my glasses for that. The Goochland County School Board hereby certifies by roll call vote that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Goochland County School Board. Each member responds, "I so certify," when called.
Mr. Newman?
I so certify.
Mrs. Horn?
I so certify.
Mr. Wright?
I so certify.
Mrs. Fairford Reed?
I so certify.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. And I didn't use my hammer. You know, I don't like hitting things, but anyway. All right, so here we are. We welcome everyone that's here present this evening, and those who are virtually with us. And I hope that you can hear us tonight. I appreciate citizens letting us know that some of the mics weren't as clear, so we're going to try really hard tonight to make sure that you can hear us in person or virtually. This evening we also have our student representative, Mr. Teague. Thank you so much for being here, sir. And thank you to all the Goochland school employees who've had a long day, and here they are with us tonight as well. We are also welcoming several citizens, 4 citizens, who have submitted their application to serve as an interim board member. This month there's many celebrations, as you can see in our announcements, but one, a very important celebration is that it's Women's History Month. So I thought it was appropriate to use this quote before we have our moment of silence, because it not only represents women in history, but it also represents where we are as a board and what we are working to do this evening. Memories of our lives or our works and our deeds will continue in others. And that's from Miss Rosa Parks. So if you will join me for a moment of silence, then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance where Mr. Teague will lead us. Thank you. Please stand if you are able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Board members, are there any additions or amendments to our agenda this evening?
No, ma'am. I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
A
I'll
second.
Great. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will proceed with our orders of the day. We're going to start with some recognitions. Dr. Raley.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Horn. As always, we have a lot to be proud of in our school division and lots of examples of excellence, and we have many celebrations this evening. The first celebration is the Class 3A state pole vault winner, Mr. Tyler Black. If you remember last month, I shared with the board that we were a school division that had all the winter sports that could be offered at our school, and so proud of the accomplishments of all of our student athletes and our coaches who participated in some challenging situations, but through it all, we were successful in many sports, and specifically Tyler's successful. We'll ask Dr. Collier to come forward and tell us a little bit about Tyler and his accomplishments this winter season.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members. Thank you, Dr. Raley and Hatcher. Great to see, Mr. Teague. It's great to see you here tonight. And I'm going to ask Tyler to join me up here. Come on, Tyler.
Awesome.
just an exceptional young man. Extremely proud of him for winning the state championship in the pole vault Class 3 state championship, to be specific, with a vault of 13 feet. He actually won the title on his first vault of the day. He was the only competitor to be over 12 feet, and he did it on his first attempt and kept rocking and rolling. So could have just hung up the cleats, if you will, but kept going. So really proud of his resilience and effort. And he actually won the regional title with 13 feet 6 inches. So really proud of him for that. He is our first state championship at the Class 3 level at Goodson High School, so we're excited about that as well. And he is the first indoor track state champion since 1978.
Wow.
So really cool feat. Yeah, please. And on top of all this, he had an even busier week because he kicked a field goal and 5 extra points the Friday before that. So his legs were probably a little bit tired. But we are super proud of him. His mom is our head athletic trainer, and dad is a exceptional pole vaulter himself and works in the school system. So always an extra proud moment when we see the children, the young people of school employees succeeding and working hard. So Tyler, congratulations. You want to say anything to the board? Okay. He said he's going to go win another one next year. Right? Perfect. Good.
I have a
Thank you all.
question. I have a question for Tyler. Tyler, I've tried a lot of sports, but I have not attempted pole vaulting. What does it feel like when you're up there and that pole is bending?
It's great. It's exciting.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Yeah,
That
thank you.
is incredible.
Thank you.
Congratulations, man. Okay, next, board members, I want to bring Mr. Todd Steely, our Coordinator of Facility Services, forward. We all know that we're coming up on the dreaded anniversary of March 13th, the day that I know that we will all remember for quite some time. And it was Friday the 13th as well, if you remember, where decisions were made to close schools for the remainder of the year. And I can remember walking back into Goodson High School on Monday the 16th, and Mr. Steely was there with all of our facilities professionals. And as you can imagine, there was lots of concern and worry, and folks didn't know what was going to happen when they were told to clean every square inch of all of our facilities. And you know what? They did that admirably. They did it with courage and with concern in their minds. They went to task and they cleaned every square inch of all of our facilities and have been doing so since then. Really, really proud of the work that our facilities professionals have done during this time with work that they've had to do at night and on the weekends, and when they have been asked to perform sanitation duties, they have always been there to answer the call of duty. And so we want to publicly recognize Mr. Steely and all of our facilities professionals this evening. So Mr. Steely, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening. It's difficult tonight having the absence of Mr. Quarles. There've been a lot of touching tributes over the last few weeks, more eloquent than I could express, but he was always a big advocate for our department. So wish he could be here to hear about all of our achievements. This facility team, we're deep in talent. Many of the staff's loyalty, students and the staff, go far beyond their job description. I've seen them collaborate with teachers to help with struggling students. I've seen them greeted like rock stars returning to schools they used to work at. We have remarkably low turnover. Between 5 guys in the maintenance department, they have 93 years experience working in this school system. If you include the full-time custodial crew, you have 200 years in this school system. 7 of the full-time staff have been with us over 15 years. David Frith, 16 years. Janet Sinegar, 21. Steve Roshkin, 22. Chris Richmond, 23. Rob Lawrence, 28. Priscilla Garrett, 33 years.
Wow.
That doesn't include the part-time staff. And I question whether or not Rooster at Goodson Elementary is ever going to retire. This is a staff of experts. The knowledge in their specialties astounds me, and so much more. We've completed over 2,500 work orders since I've been keeping track. Here's just an abbreviated list of some of the larger projects. The bird backup generator, building automation upgrades at most of our facilities, significant HVAC upgrades at Bird and Randolph, outdoor signage improvements throughout the county, C-143 renovation, high school roof replacement, Randolph parking lot, LED lighting upgrades indoors and out, the floor work at all of our facilities, carpet replacement at Goodson High School, athletic complex and outdoor space upgrades, painting projects throughout the county. Can I just say, between the painting and the parking and the landscaping, the outdoor of Randolph has just been retransformed.
Absolutely.
And then we can talk about COVID. This team was the first to return, and they began to prepare the facilities for the rest of our staff to return. It worked really hard. We collaborated with a lot of groups. This was a group effort. The HR and finance team, they were critical to ensuring we had the resources to succeed. Jen Wagner and her team led the PPE procurement, and the leadership from Dr. Armstrong, Dr. Raley, and this board ensured we were on track to have students return. We upgraded the plumbing and ventilation. We moved and stored a warehouse of furniture to provide social distancing. And we had a graduation. That was awesome. The day after the graduation, I was just feeling great, what a success. And then I got a call around noon that the scaffolding contractors that set up the stage weren't going to be there because it was currently having a tropical storm. Well, they were still having a drive-in that night, 5 p.m. Called up the guys. By 4 p.m., it was done.
Wow.
It was miserable. It was cold, and it was a downpour. And what I really remember is being on that wet scaffolding as it got less and less stable. And as soon as we were done, the sunshine came out. There's probably a metaphor there. But more than anything, that's when I knew this is a team. We trusted each other as a team. All this hard work combined allowed return to in-person learning. That's a headline in the news right now that we're not dealing with. We all know the importance reopening was to our community, but it's also personal to me. I have 2 daughters at Goodson Elementary. They needed the social interaction just as much as the educational. As we transition past the pandemic, we'll continue to improve the facilities. As we close out department projects, our department will begin to focus on details. And the details are what make our schools exceptional. In closing, it's been a long, exhausting year with countless challenges. But we've met those challenges. We're a stronger team on the other side of this. I couldn't imagine doing it with a different group. I look forward to what's ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. And the pictures speak a lot of extra words for this team, because whenever I see one of your team members smiling, they truly believe that this is their home and they treat it that way, and everyone that comes to that building is part of their family. And I feel that. And that's exceptional because they are working so very hard. So thank you so much, sir, for your leadership of that group as well. Makes a big difference.
Great team to be with.
Thank you.
Next, board members, we want to recognize our inaugural class of our CTE Hall of Fame business partnerships. And we all know the exceptional leadership that Mr. Watson provides for our career and technical education program. We're going to hear some more about that later on this evening. Mr. Watson had the vision for us to recognize our business partnerships who have really been at the foundation of our work, who have accepted our graduates, who have served to help us build strong programs within this school division, and have welcomed our programs with open arms. As you can imagine, many businesses would say, no, I don't want a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds walking around my facility, but they've recognized the strength of our programs and have developed a pipeline through this partnership. And so we want to recognize this inaugural class this evening and thank them for what they have done to support career and technical education in our community and supporting our students along the way. So Mr. Watson.
Good evening. Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Teague, Dr. Raley, thank you. I am so excited for this milestone in our CTE program. Those of you who have been in the school system know how far we've come in career and technical education in the past few years. We could not have done that without your support, the Board of Supervisors, but as importantly, our business partners. We have a Business and Education Roundtable coming up this Thursday, and when you look at the list of invitees to that, it's over 200 individuals and companies that have been invited to the Roundtable, which speaks volumes to what we've done, Dr. Raley's done, to grow our business partnerships. So it's with great pleasure tonight, I got to do this, that we recognize 9 individuals and companies who have played a major role in advancing our programs and giving benefits to our students. Now, all of the recipients were nominated by our CTE teachers. In some cases, it was one teacher who nominated them, and in many cases, it was more than one CTE teacher who nominated them. These are in somewhat of an alphabetical order, so if you'll bear with me. The first recognition goes to Goodson Fire and Rescue, and I think Chief Ferguson is with us. Goodson Fire and Rescue is nominated by Meredith McGuire, our nurse aid instructor, but very well could have been nominated by any one of us. They've been instrumental in the nurse aid class in teaching first aid. They were instrumental in our public safety class in teaching firefighting and first aid in that class. They've helped out with STEM camp, and I could go on and on and on. So it's with great pleasure that I congratulate Chief Ferguson and his division for all of their help.
Thank you, sir. You are such an important part of our community. Really appreciate you.
The relationship we have with the school system is so important, and we're great partners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, it's the Goodson County Sheriff's Office, and I think Sheriff Creasy is with us, along with a host of other back there. Goodson County Sheriff's Office was nominated by Mr. Brent Rose, teacher at the high school. Again, they could have been nominated by any number of teachers. They've been instrumental in providing student activities, in creating videos for the department that they've used for their Christmas promotion and, was it seatbelt or? Seatbelt safety that the students produce. So they've given them the opportunity to give back to the community through these videos. Also involved in the public safety class. And again, we could go on and on and on for their contributions not only to career and technical education, but to our school system in general. So Sheriff Creasy, gives me great pride to present you with this.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, an amazing community partner. Thank you for taking good care of us, sir.
Our next recipient is Goochland Farm Bureau, and I'm not sure, is there anybody here from the Farm Bureau? Farm Bureau was nominated by Mr. Danny Allen, our ag science teacher, for all that they've done for our ag science program at the middle school and high school. They've contributed funds for the plants and other items in the greenhouse and high tunnel, but we'll make sure they get that award. The next recipient is the Goodson Education Foundation, Ms. Cindy Brown. Goodson Education Foundation was nominated by Chef Booth. Again, any number of us could have nominated GEF and Cindy for what they've done. But in particular, they've supported the culinary arts program. They supported the new high tunnel we have at the high school for the ag science program, excuse me, and helped fund the first dogfly unit that the robotics team built last summer. And on and on and on. So Cindy, thank you, and the Goodson Education Foundation for everything that you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you for helping to enrich our experiences here in Goochland County Schools.
Our next recipient is Leasefield Contractors, and I know Joe's with us.
Oh, awesome.
I don't know how we first met. But in 2014, we started our heavy equipment operator program. It's only one of 2 programs in the entire Commonwealth. We have the best and the largest. And if it wasn't for this gentleman, I'm not sure we would have gotten it off the ground as fast as we did and have the thorough program that we have. He has provided experience getting our equipment fixed. He's provided internship and apprentice opportunities for our students. They provided guest speakers. They participated in mock interviews. On and on and on. We participated in the Raswick Festival. They've had our students out there putting on demonstrations, operating equipment. If it hadn't been for Joe Lisfield and Mike V., our instructor, the program wouldn't be where it is today. So I cannot say enough about this gentleman, other than the fact we share the same birthday. So, Joe, thank you so much.
I would just want to say that y'all are doing a wonderful job. It's great for the students, great for the county, great for our state, and the business community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next recipient is probably no stranger to any of us, Mr. Mark Smith in Midas. Midas of Richmond. Midas of Richmond and Mark were nominated by Miss EYP. Mark has been involved in our program in so many different ways, in speaking to the econ and personal finance classes, participating in our mock interviews. He was a huge, huge supporter of our All-Star Week last week for the entire county. He's called me any number of times and said, hey, do you have somebody who wants to be an apprentice mechanic or need a job? And unfortunately, I don't have anybody to send him, but he's referred some culinary people to us for positions. But Mark does so much for this community, not only for CTE, but he's done a lot for us, but for Goodson Cares and the entire community. So it gives me a great deal of pleasure to recognize Mark Smith and Midas of Richmond for all they've done for us.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. It's always good to see you.
Next is RAMCA. I don't know, Vanessa's not here, I don't think. RAMCA is an acronym for Richmond Area Municipal Contractors Association. Again, they've been intimately involved in our heavy equipment operator program, providing mentors, equipment, participating in mock interviews, on and on and on. This is a conglomeration of contractors who specialize in site preparation and utility work for the entire Central Virginia area. I cannot tell you what Vanessa Patterson, the executive director in RAMCA, had done for this program and supporting Skills USA competition every year. So I'm sorry they couldn't be here tonight. Next, Dr. Shannon Wolf. Melissa, would you? Dr. Wolf was nominated by Ms. Black for his work with the sports medicine classes that she teaches and all the work that he does with the teams after school and the athletic trainers. I cannot begin to calculate how many hours he has invested along with what Ms. Black has invested. But our program and our athletes are better for his participation and his contribution to the program. So, Dr. Wolf, we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you're doing for us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And our final recipient is Diane Keeney. Is she? She's with Orthopedic Research of Virginia. Again, she has played an integral role in helping with the sports medicine classes and with athletic training after school. And Melissa nominated both of these fine people for the recognition. So that's our inaugural class for our Career and Technical Education Hall of Fame. Appreciate your support. We appreciate everything that they've done, all the recipients have done, and we look forward to more recipients in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
And again, a huge thanks to our business partners for the support that they provide to our students and for opening their doors and providing advice to us and supporting our initiatives. Thank you so very much for that. Board members, you have a recognition that is not on your agenda, and it's a nice segue into the next aspect of our agenda this evening. And you can see the first thing under announcements and reminders is National School Breakfast Week. And so I had the pleasure of starting my day today at Byrd Elementary School, where I walked from classroom to classroom and provided warm breakfast to many students. I went to 4 or 5 classrooms and served 56 breakfasts today. That's just a small flash in the pan compared to what our food service professionals have been doing day in and day out. You know, they've served thousands and thousands of meals through the pandemic. They're serving supper, they're serving breakfast, they're serving lunch, they're doing so many wonderful things. So we do want to recognize School Breakfast Week, but we also want to recognize just holistically the great things that our food service professionals do day in and day out. We have one of our managers, Miss Robin Hawk, who's with us this evening. I have the pleasure of serving breakfast with her tomorrow at Randolph, and excited about that. But they are all ultimately led by Miss Lisa Landrum, who is a selfless servant who gives above herself to make sure that students have meals in their bellies. She knows what they need to learn, and so she is giving on nights and weekends and doing everything she can to make sure that students have warm, healthy meals. And so it is my pleasure this evening to recognize a superhero with the School Meals Hero Award, and that goes to Miss Lisa Landrum for her amazing leadership. So, thank you.
You are one special lady. I have to see what that looks like. Can you turn that around? Oh my. That's
I've never seen anything.
gold. I'm sure that is 24 karat gold plated as well. Good job, Dr. Rayleigh, getting that on budget.
Thank you all for all of your support.
Thank you for
Oh,
all
you're so welcome.
Yeah,
We're lucky to have you.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
very much so.
All right. Wow, that was fantastic. All right. How are you going to follow that?
Great way to get our night started.
All right. So we have announcements and reminders now. Dr. Rayleigh.
We do, and for the benefit of the public, you have them listed in your agenda. You have links to different things, and we are going to have Conundrum Day this year. We did not have that last year, so excited about getting our students together to do some designing and some building and some creating. March is Equity in Education Month, Arts Education Month, Music in Our Schools Month, and Women's History Month. We have some Board of Supervisors meetings that are taking place as they deliberate on our upcoming budget, and so many different public meetings that are taking place, and encourage our audience and those watching from home to be a part of those important meetings in the future.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Our next item is our public comment period. So let me explain a little bit about items 11 and 12 on our agenda. Item 11 is public comment period, and during that time, anyone who wishes to speak on any topic may come forward and do so. Item 12 is specifically only for candidates who have submitted applications for the interim board seat. We have 4 individuals who have submitted applications, so we will have 4 people speaking for 5 minutes each. And that's item 12. So we are in public comment period, and I know that we do have a couple of emails that have come in, Ms. Bennett. So I'm going to start with you, and that will give folks the time to decide about coming forward. So would you please share any emails that have come in for comment?
I have an email from Laurel Stratia. Dear Dr. Raley and school board members, I was sorry to hear about Mr. Quarles' passing last month. He will be greatly missed. I am writing to support Ms. Angela Allen for school board as I cannot attend tonight's meeting. While I do not live in her district, I believe Ms. Allen would do an excellent job representing the entire Goochland community. She became actively involved in attending and speaking at school board meetings this year. She challenged our schools to think outside the box after researching current issues and trends before sharing her thoughts. Because of her efforts and those of others, Goochland County became a leader in establishing standards to reopen schools and did so successfully. Ms. Allen seems dedicated to ensuring a quality education for all students, seems willing to listen to others, and is passionate about education. I believe Ms. Allen would be a great addition to the Goochland County School Board. Thank you.
All right, any others?
That's the only one I have.
All right, and you said you had no one that signed up, is that correct? All right, so if there are any public members who would like to speak, would you please step forward?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, school board members. I am Yolanda Anderson. I'm a former educator in Goochland County. On behalf of Billy Joe Lebo, I'd like to take a few moments to enlighten you. First of all, she is a community activist and educational bulwark for the youth in our county. To begin with, she worked ardently and constantly supporting students of our community. I'm very familiar with the exceptional work that she did with students who were on paths to higher education after graduation. She exposed them to campus colleges and career fields unimagined. She helped them with test preparedness to enter degree programs. Under her tutelage, one year, she garnered the highest percentage of Black students to enter higher learning institutions. She has improving her community as a top priority. Also, she directs the youth choir at our church, for Choir Baptist Church. Again, she doesn't mind pounding the stone to achieve success for our youth. She will be an asset to the school board and an indomitable force in securing the best for our community, students, and parents. She has my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Hobbs?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and board members, Dr. Raley. I'm Wendy Hobbs, and I stand here as the president of the Goochland NAACP, and as a longtime friend of Mr. Quarles. And tonight you will hear the express interests and qualifications of candidates seeking to fill that selection of the interim for District 2. I personally know how important the interests and needs of all students were to Mr. Quarles, as you do. Tonight, we implore you to continue diversity on this board. Also, to select the person who has a wealth of knowledge and experience in Goochland public school system, as well as in the community. To select someone who is vested in the school system, who have children or grandchildren, and I have one that's a rising kindergarten, so it's very important to me in this system. Your decision will not be easy, and that's a good challenge to have. We want to implore you to continue to maintain diversity on this board by selecting someone who reflects the entire county of the school, students and their parents. And the demographics that you had before did that. So again, we ask you to think about and select someone who will represent diversity. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on any topic? All right, great. Thank you so much. We will now hear from our candidates who will have 5 minutes to address the board. I did not assign anyone specific order. I feel like maybe there's someone who would like to go first because that's what you like to do. Is there anyone who's interested in being first? All right, please step forward and introduce yourself and where you live.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and Board. Can you all hear me? I'm going to pull this down so I can
That's
hear.
fine. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Billy Joe Lebo, and I'm a resident of Goodson County, and I live in the 2nd District. And I also am very familiar with Mr. Quarles, and he's one of the reasons that I'm here, because he helped me to get my teacher's license, which I had put aside for a couple of years, and he was a motivator for me. So I feel that it's my place and my responsibility to carry on the service that he's given to me to give back to others. I've been in the education field for over 25 years. I worked in diverse programs. I worked with the Project Discovery Program with students who were at risk. I was a teacher at Beaumont Juvenile Correctional Center with inmates. I also worked at Hallmark Youth Care, which is a therapeutic treatment program. I was a treatment counselor in Goochland High Schools, and with the Project Discovery Program, I worked with the students in Goochland and Powhatan County. My focus was on students that were at risk, those that would slip through the crack. And I think that as a board member, I would bring a diverse idea and reflection or outlook on some of the different areas that I've had experience and knowledge in. I don't do a lot of organized volunteering, or I'm not part of a whole lot of different organizations, because I think that I didn't really want to box myself in, because there's so much that needs to be done, and I know that we have to follow by certain guidelines when you're a part of different organizations. It's not that I didn't want to, but I have 4 children that have also finished Goochland County High School, and I had a diverse population in my household. Because one of my daughters has ADHD, which is a trigger for all of us. So I know that there are obstacles that we face as parents, as well as our children's face, in trying to fit in and trying to be successful. I know that there's a lot of things that we can do at home, but I also know that on the board that we can also be supportive not only for our children, but for the parents and for our community. And if we can work together to achieve a common goal and work diligently and use all of our background and our diversity and our experiences to bring about challenges, to bring about opportunities, to bring about support for our children, that we'll be continue to be effective and continue to be successful. And that's my goal. That's what I would like to do. And that's why it's important to me to be here today, to send in my application. And if you all know, I know with Ms. Bennett, I think you got my application this evening because it didn't go through, and I was like, oh. So I did that application on my phone while I'm at work. Wow. So I'm determined to be here. I want you to know I put the same energy when I'm in the position that I'm in, because I feel like you can give 100%, and that's all. And once that's done, you have to look at the outcome and be satisfied and feel like you're confident in what you do. We're not going to always agree, but we're going to always be agreeable. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I pray that you'll make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. All right, would someone like to go next? Oh, I love these people that volunteer. This is awesome.
Good evening,
sir.
board members, Madam Chairman, Dr. Raley, Mr. Teague. My name is Thomas Johnson. I am not from Goodson County. I grew up in Tappahannock, Virginia. My wife, Crystal Miller Johnson, is from Goodson County. Her father, Raymond Miller, was on the school board for quite some time. So I am coming at this from a slight disadvantage in the sense that I don't have an educational background. I'm a lawyer. But what I would like to strive for with regard to stepping up for this particular position occasioned by the untimely passing of Dr. Quarles, or Mr. Quarles, is that I want you to know that I'm vested. I have 2 children of middle school age, one getting ready to go to high school, and I am very thankful for the work that the board has done with regard to the programs, the CTE program, ranging from that all the way up through the gifted programs. All of them are spectacular. And I've been very fortunate, my wife and I, that our children have taken advantage of the gifted program. And my daughter just got a letter today that she's been accepted to the governor's school, so I'm very proud of her. But that same dichotomy, that particular issue, and I look at that and I'm like, I'm very fortunate because my children have taken advantage of that and have advanced for it. But I wonder, in looking at that, why aren't there more? And that is one of the issues that motivated me to step forward today. And it has nothing, there's nothing disparaging to say about the current gifted and talented staff and those that are responsible for selecting people to go through that program. There's nothing disparaging in that at all. What I would like to see is that there's, to make sure of, is that there's more opportunity for diversity across the board. I find that sometimes we typecast kids pretty quickly. It's just the nature of what we do. We typecast them because they may have a behavioral issue, and the next thing you know, they're on a certain behavioral path. But that very kid may have things going on at home. That very kid may have other issues that get in the way of his bright beginnings or her bright beginnings. And I just want us to make sure that we're not overlooking those things. So that's one of the primary motivators for that. I feel that I'm qualified for this particular position because of all of my past experiences with regard to board memberships and presidencies. They're not of an educational background, but they are of a bringing people together with tasks to do and moving forward to accomplish those tasks. I submitted my resume. I'm not going to repeat all of those things, but I feel that it is past time. I've invested in Gooseland County with regard to my time and my kids, and now I want to try to share some of that with the rest of the county and give back to what you guys have given us. So I appreciate your time. I will work hard, and I will work collaboratively, and we will accomplish great things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Great. All right, we have a couple more folks. I'm going to guess you're not Angela. That means you're Mr. Kidd. Okay, good. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and members of the community. My name is Ronnie Kitt. I actually live here in the county. I graduated from Goodson High School in 2006. So I have a vested interest in this vacancy on the school board. Mr. Quarles was a dear friend of mine, and I was sad to hear about his untimely passing. My daughter is currently a third grader at Goodson Elementary School. I have a host of cousins and children I know through the churches and through friends of mine that I graduated with that also attend the schools here. And I just want to make sure that every child in Goochland has a chance to succeed. The biggest thing that I want to make sure that continues going forward is that if there's a person in the community that has an opinion or something they want to speak out on, I want to make sure that everyone has a voice, and I want to be that voice for everybody in the community. Like I said, I don't have an educational background. I'm an assistant manager at a Toyota dealership, so a lot of what I do is I interact with customers each and every day. I handle customer concerns and come up with solutions and strategies that best fits each customer's need. I'm very hardworking, I'm dependable, and I'm reliable, and I think all those things will transfer into this vacant seat. Straight out of high school, I went to college. I went to James Madison University. For personal reasons, I had to withdraw, but it was always my goal to finish my degree. Some years later, I was able to do that while working full-time, making sure my daughter was, doing her virtual school learning, all while obtaining my degree while maintaining a 3.86 GPA. So I'm very interested, invested in this position. I want to make sure that everyone has, a chance to succeed. I have a love for people. I love kids, and I just want to make sure that we all work together to ensure the success of each child in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, that's Angela. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, honorable school board members, Dr. Raley, and Mr. Teague. I've applied for the position of the interim school board position for District 2, and I'm available to serve our community in this capacity. My education, experience, and credentials are outlined in my application for your consideration. However, further to my consideration of qualifications, I'd like to share why I'm seeking this opportunity and how I'm prepared to contribute to the school board through my service. For generations, my family has been residents of Goochland. My grandmother was a student of Goochland schools and employed as a reading specialist at Byrd. My father graduated from Goochland High School in 1970. My husband and I are graduates of the class of 1991. And our legacy continues with our daughter Bailey, who is a junior at Goochland High School and also a Blue Ridge Virtual Governor School student. We're third-generation Goochlanders, and we're proud to be part of this community and, quite frankly, indebted to the school system for the tremendous opportunities that the quality education we receive has afforded us. From this legacy, I was raised to embody the words on Goochland County seal. Translated from the Latin, it's trust and virtue. At the cornerstone of my character are the values of integrity, courage, and excellence. I have demonstrated unwavering commitment to bring these values to life by volunteering through schools, sports teams, churches, and nonprofit organizations. My expertise in strategic planning, budget management, communications, and leadership focus on delivering key results by making sure we foster relationships and are good stewards of our resources. You're familiar with how I've appealed to this board and administration to tackle complex problems and question decisions by applying analytical rigor and sound judgment. I may be known as the voice for back to school, but I seek to be the voice for the best opportunities for all. By upholding high ethical standards, I'll provide guidance and offer solutions as we move forward. I'm confident that my personal and professional experience have prepared me to serve on the school board. I believe that public education is one of America's most vital institutions, and I'm blessed to have grown up in this community and be raising our daughter here because it has made our schools a top priority. The leadership of Goochland School Systems has done an exceptional job purposefully delivering on its mission. As a nationally recognized school division, we must continuously leverage the expertise and creativity of our community to successfully forge a culture that is prepared for the uncertainties of the future. If appointed, I commit to you that I will collaborate with respect, authenticity, and transparency. I will ask tough questions, be open to diverse perspectives, explore options, influence change, advocate for students, staff, and families, and empower our leaders to fulfill this school system's vision. Beyond what I've accomplished and what I'll bring to bear through my service is actually a personal motivation to challenge the status quo. I know there's always going to be something new to learn, something I can do better in every walk of my life, and that's what drives me on. Understanding not who you are, but who you want to be. I genuinely want to spark this same level of curiosity in others around me, and I hope that my service may do so. Throughout his career, Mr. Quarles exemplified excellence in his service, and I would be truly honored to continue that endeavor. Respectfully, I ask for your support in appointing me to the position of interim school board member for District 2. I'm optimistic that together we can continue to maintain the positive trajectory and advance the quality of education for all students in Goochland, delivering on the mission to maximize the potential of every learner. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Wow. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for all of you coming forward this evening. Ms. Allen, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Kitt, and Ms. Lebo. We as a board have a very important decision to make at a special election which will take place on a meeting a special meeting that will take place on March the 16th. This will be for the interim board position, and that person will serve from the time that they take their oath after the March 16th meeting until the November election. And these are two separate actions. I hope that there were other District 2 people listening tonight, because my understanding is that many of the people who came forward tonight are also interested in the election process, which again is a completely separate action. So thank you for stepping up tonight. Thank you for sharing amazing words. I'm very enthusiastic about our opportunities. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chairman, we'd like to be excused. My grandchildren have virtual schools.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank
I
you
recognize
so
some of those grandbabies.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for coming. All right, so let's see, where were we? All right. We look forward to one of the candidates joining our board in a most exciting time in education. We are experiencing what I call an edulution, where all that was considered normal school is up for examination, revision, abandonment, and even sweeping change. So as an innovative school division, Goochland County Public Schools will take on many new challenges in the next 3 years. I hope that you will stay for many of the presentations that will happen this evening, and you will hear why we are a school division of innovation. I am going to ask that we recess for 5 minutes, because you came here tonight to speak, and we would like to have the opportunity to greet you as board members. Sometimes we get kind of stuck back here. We have so many good things to do and hear about, but I would like to take 5 minutes and come out and personally thank you all. So we will come back to the dais at 7:30. So board members, if you'd like to join me, please do. All right, we are back, and we are on item 13, which is consent items. Board members, do I have any motions for our consent items, or what's your pleasure, please?
Madam Chair, I've moved that we take the consent items as a slate.
A second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to take our consent items as a slate. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there were some great items on that, and so all of you who know how to go to our agenda on our school board page, please pull those up, and just like everything else, is just great information, so thank you. All right, Dr. Raley, back to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Horn. So several things under superintendent's comments. The first thing is recognition of All-Star Week, which was supposed to be 1 week, but it was spread out over 2 weeks as a result of some of the unfortunate weather that Mother Nature threw our way. But as you know, this is a way for us to recognize our All-Stars, all 468 employees who do the great work of our school division. We had some special activities that took place with some dress-up days, and we had drawings at the end of the day for some dollars towards our team store, and then we had a day of leave that was the grand prize at the end of the week. So just a way to kind of boost some spirits during some tough winter days. We certainly had some during the month of February, but a way to recognize our employees. So thank you to Dr. Armstrong, Mrs. Bennett, Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris, a team effort to put all this together, and something that kind of is part of the ingredients of our secret sauce. Next is a job fair, and I'll tell you, board members, you know, there's some things through this unfortunate pandemic that may last past the pandemic, and we experienced a very positive virtual job fair last week, and we had 39 individuals who signed up, and I believe it was 46 interviews conducted over the course of a week, and it was positive because it provided some flexibility for our employees as well as for the candidates to be able to interview in the evenings from their homes, and it was convenient. And I'll tell you what, there was a whole lot of talent. I've seen the list of individuals who interviewed, and you just appointed one of those individuals who interviewed last week. The talent pool was very strong. And we have principals who have rated some as gold card candidates who we want to get back for interviews in person. So a very positive event. And again, thank you to Dr. Armstrong and Mrs. Harris who organized that. And I think that we may be able to take some of those aspects of that virtual job fair and use them in the future. And the next thing, I'm going to come to the podium and give you an update on operations and metrics and let you know where we are at this point in time with our current status. So a shout out to Mr. C, and you might see a cape there that was made by your very own Mrs. Karen Horn, our chair. And so you can see that we're recognizing our teachers with awards from our coaching program, and Goodson teachers truly are superheroes. So I thought that that was pretty cool and want to recognize everyone for their efforts to do that. So as you remember, board members, these are the progression variables that we have been looking at throughout the course of this year. This has not changed. And I'm still proud to say that at this point in time, we have not had an outbreak within our schools. And so proud of the mitigation efforts of all of our employees, the support from our parents who are keeping children home when they're sick, everybody's compliance with wearing masks and temperature checks. And we have been very, very fortunate to this point in time that we have not had an outbreak. And as you'll see later on, our staffing data is very strong as well. This is the updated community data. And so this is something that everyone can access off of the website, but this is going back to July 14th when we really started to have this conversation in earnest, contrasted against some of the cases that have taken place in congregate settings. And as you have seen, nationally, there were spikes, peaks, and valleys in all of our data as well. And as I mentioned last month to you, even though we were faced with challenges where those peaks were really tall, we stayed the course, we stayed true, students stayed in school, we kept teaching, they kept learning, and we were able to overcome that adversity. And you can see that cases have dropped off significantly over time. So really strong data, and our families are not getting as many calls from the superintendent in the evening as a result of cases. We did have a few within our schools today and communicated that to our middle school and high school folks, but those calls are not happening at the same level of frequency as they were at one point in time, and that is referenced by the data that you see on the screen here. I am happy to report that we continue to have many, many employees who have expressed an interest in the vaccine and have received the vaccine. And what has happened since the first time we asked for individuals who were interested, we had some more folks who came out. So where we were hoping to have everyone interested with the vaccine by mid-March, it's going to be delayed just a little bit because we had some more folks express interest. And so not a big deal in the big scheme of things, but as you can see, we have over 3/4 of our employees who expressed interest, and we'll have both vaccines by the beginning of April. So positive progress here. And again, a shout out to Jennifer Wagner and Demetra Harris, who have really spearheaded this effort in collaboration with the local health district. So thankful for that. You could overlay this data on some of the other data that you have seen in previous charts. You can see some spikes, and we are now coming down off of those spikes where cases are starting to level, and I expect that in time it will be less and less as time goes on. So just another data point that we have been sharing on a monthly basis. We're in a very strong staffing position, board members, where we only have one vacancy right now across the school division, and that is not related to COVID in any way, shape, or form. That's just a vacancy that we have. We only have 2 individuals who are out on leave, and they are not COVID related. So we are in a very strong staffing position right now, and you have seen this graph ebb and flow over time. And so just shown a different way, there's that one unfilled job opening that we have, and then the 2 that I referenced. So of 219 teaching positions, we have a workforce of 217, and we're not concerned about our ability to staff our schools right now. And so I share this as the ending picture. Ms. Horn had the chance to work out with our PE teachers at Goodson Middle School, and they have recreated that space, and it's just an absolutely amazing experience. And so I wanted to end with this because I'm just continually proud of our team who have innovated, who have created, and have worked hard in really difficult situations to engage kids. You go into this space, they have 6x6 boxes drawn on the floor. They have kids in their own space. They all have their own drumsticks and their own workout equipment, and they're safe, and we're teaching kids in person, or we're teaching kids at home, and it's working well. So very proud of our team, and at this point in time, we're in a very strong position to end the year. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Board members, any questions? Comments? I would like to add, you were talking about this experience. One of their pieces of equipment is actually their iPads or their computers. It was dark. I'm not sure which one they had, but so they were taking their pulse prior and midway. So there were several points where there was a rest time and a pulse rate. So it wasn't just about movement. It was about understanding their body and their capacity to increase their heart rate. And that was something that was measurable during that time as well. So very impressive. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you want to stay up there? You need this? Oh, okay. All right. So we are now to 15. And as I said earlier, we have got some fantastic reports this evening on what we do best in our instruction. So thank you, Dr. Raley.
Sure. I'm going to ask Chef David Booth to come forward. Chef Booth has been working in our school division. I think this is year 3 or 4. Anyway, time flies when you're having fun. But I'll tell you, I've had the pleasure of watching Chef Booth since he started in our school division to where he is now. And as a career switcher, he has grown tremendously as a professional and has been open-minded to many, many ideas. And I love going to his classroom. You'll see his face in many of our videos and publications, and that's because he does amazing things for students every day. He was at the high school serving meals, and I was in there the other day, and he was teaching kids online while other kids were preparing a meal. He had one class that he was really working on, but he had these other kids in another class that were kind of like stacked together. And you approved this evening a resolution with Babylon Farms and Greenswell Growers where Chef Booth is providing students with opportunities to use 21st century skills and hydroponic skills that are going to benefit them in a global workplace. And so I'm not going to steal his thunder, but we're really lucky to have Chef Booth as a member of our faculty. It's my pleasure to give him an opportunity to share his story with you this evening.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Welcome.
All right. So how are we doing? Oh,
There you go.
awesome. You're the best.
You just need to present.
Sorry. I've given Mr. Teague a tray of goodies for you guys to sample at the end of the meeting. The Black History Month project for one of my classes was to research a African-influenced dessert that we could sample to the students, socially distanced and safe. And they came up with this Gullah brown sugar pecan chew. Yeah, it sounds pretty terrible, right?
No, it sounds
So it's
great.
kind of crunchy on the outside, it's soft and gooey on the inside. And we sampled them at the high school last week for Black History Month because we got sidetracked because of the weather. So we had a few left over in the freezer, and I figured why not bring them so you guys can
And you
can
started
see.
them with Mr. Teague?
Well,
wow, I'm not sure about that.
He seems pretty trustworthy. He seems
okay.
pretty trustworthy.
All right, good, thank you.
Dr. Raley had asked me to come and present a little bit to you guys about the Babylon system that we have put in at the Culinary Arts Center in the kitchen. In July of this past year, I got an email from Mr. Watson asking me if I would be interested in having one of these units in my classroom. And I literally didn't finish reading the email. I mean, I replied very, very quickly, absolutely. Upon reading about it, you know, it just fit so much of what I personally believe in as part of culinary education, which is sustainability, eating locally, eating fresh, nutrition, but also the other aspects of it that come into play that I'll explain to you guys in just a minute. Not only did we get one, but we got two. Okay, and this was a great opportunity for us, not just as a culinary program, but as a school system in general. And because I think you'll see, this goes way beyond just the culinary arts. So a Babylon microphonic system, microfarm, is a 15 square foot unit that can produce as much as 2,000 square feet of land.
That's amazing.
And it has a lot of benefits. Okay, it uses 94% less water, no pesticides, very, very little fertilizer, no carbon emissions, no land use, and very, very, very little waste at all. All we throw away is what's left over after we do the harvest, which I'll explain to you in a minute. And the technology on it is just amazing. Because of the technology that it gives, it allows students to see cutting edge hydroponics. The software that is going into this is amazing, and I would really hope that at some point we could get some of our computer science teachers and students over to see this. But it gives, in addition to giving them the technology to work with, it also gives them the ability to see fresh products. We all know that teenagers are sometimes nutritionally challenged, to say the least. And for them to have the opportunity to experience greens and other things that they may never have tasted, and to figure out, hey man, these are pretty good, I kind of really like these, is a good thing for them as well. Also, hydroponics being a cutting edge, with us getting a new industry here in Goochland on a larger scale, this was a great way to introduce them to that. And another thing that's very important to me and my program was the opportunity to give back, because this is a partnership with Goochland Cares. These machines were donated by an investor who wanted to give them to Goochland Cares. They didn't have the space or the manpower to maintain them, so they offered them to us, and I jumped on it. We are currently the only public school in the state of Virginia to have one of these units. They have one over at one of the correctional facility, one of the home for challenged folks. But other than that, it's all hospitals and nursing homes and stuff like that. So we have really, really got a brand new thing here that is just wonderful. So obviously, we haven't been able to do exactly what we wanted to do this year. This year's been a little bit different, not having as many students and not being able to really get into it. But we have used the machines quite well. As you can see, the students have had an active part in working with the plants, seeing how they work. We've tested a multiple variety of greens and lettuces. We have several planted now for an upcoming salad unit. We have all our herbs planted for an upcoming herbs and spices unit. And we're also doing cross-curriculum stuff. I'm working with second graders at Bird Elementary, Christy Lowell's class. And what they do is they pick what they want to plant. And then every couple weeks, I do a virtual meeting with them where they see what their plants are doing. We practice harvesting. And then they decide what they want to do. And the last batch of stuff they wanted to donate to Goochland Cares. They thought that was really neat. The next thing that we grant, we're going to go over and we're going to do a salad day with them. And I'm going to go over and they're going to be able to taste what they grew. So it's been a really, really neat partnership with them, and it's been great to work with those younger folks as well. And here you go. Here's some of the pictures of the students working on the farm, some of the products that they've produced. We've had visitors. I've had biology teachers come visit. I've had Mr. Allen down. There's a picture of our own Ms. McGuire working on the farm one day when we had a particularly big harvest. So it's really been a cool way to get involved. And here's some stats on what we've done so far. I won't read them all out loud, but every couple months they send us a list of what we have done and what Babylon has done together. And I just wanted to share the technology with you because their motto is it takes the green thumb out of gardening. Okay? So literally, if I want to plant red cabbage in the farm, I open up my little package of red cabbage seeds and I put them in the farm and I scan the QR code on my phone. And then the Babylon app tells me when it's time to transplant, when it's time to harvest, and when it's time to put new stuff in. When the Babylon system knows that I'm running out of seeds, they automatically send me a new box of seeds. Wow. So I never run out of plants, I never run out of product. It monitors the nutrients for me, it monitors everything. And you know, I really see this as a limitless kind of educational opportunity. Not just for culinary, but you know, the software is state of the art. The science behind it is state of the art. I've had so many science teachers say, "Man, these are so cool. I wish I had these in my class." So I hope that, you know, once we get back to quote unquote normal, that people will be coming down and taking part in this for years and years to come, because I think it's a great product.
Yeah.
Wow.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Chef Booth, I will just say this. I was at Goodson High School when the idea of a culinary program began. You have taken it so far beyond where we started. I can't say enough about what you've shared. Even before Babylon, the last couple of years, what you've been able to do and the presentations that students have presented, things they've learned have been evident at everything. Thank you so much for the leadership that you brought to the program and for trying something like this. That's absolutely fascinating.
Well,
thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I mean, I feel we feel very supported. You know, Mr. Watson and everyone has always been a great supporter. There's never been a shortage of, oh, I want to try this, go for it. You know, and that's always been it's been very, very nice. So, thank you very much, Mr. Newman. I appreciate that. Anyone else?
I'm going to say ditto on that. That is what I was thinking too. It's like every year, it's like, okay, what is he doing this year? I can't believe there's something else. So it's
yeah,
amazing.
we had a lot going. We had a lot planned this year. Some of it got derailed. The NASA project got derailed this year, but you know, we're plugging along, and we're getting more and more students back in the kitchen all the time. Dr. Raley stopped by the other day. And one of the young men who said he wanted to come back full-time is back full-time.
Nice.
Oh, great. So, I mean, we're getting them back, and we're getting them interested, and we're getting them moving, so. Good. But thank you for your time. I didn't want to take up too much, but I was excited to tell you all about this.
Well, it is exciting.
It was really cool. When I came and visited your classroom, you showed me everything. I was amazed at everything
awesome.
there. It was really neat, but also sort of simple.
Yes. And you know, the other thing before I sit down is they have been wonderful to work with. Meredith Thomas, who is our head saleswoman, has also been my biggest volunteer, because this was supposed to be a student-driven project and we don't have any students. So she comes once or twice a week and helps me harvest and helps me maintain.
Wow.
And she has come when students are there and is very, very forthcoming with the knowledge and stops to tell the students what they're doing and why they're doing it and how it works. I remember even one day I had a student who was supposed to be helping her clean the farm. And she was like, I don't want him to just clean the farm. And she found other stuff for him to do so that he could be excited about it and interested. So they've been fantastic, her in particular. If it wasn't so early in the partnership, she'd have gotten a plaque tonight. Maybe next year.
I think we will see that. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. Wow, exciting.
So we're going to continue the excitement with Dr. Collier coming forward to tell us a little bit about the successes of Goochland High School. And, board members, last month we had an instructional presentation. We're going to continue to do that throughout the course of the spring. And this is an opportunity to highlight the many successes of our Bulldogs. And so he has Ms. Catherine Richards with him this evening, who has been a part of this project, and we're happy to highlight the great things happening at GHS.
Thank you, Dr. Raley, and Madam Chair, board members, thank you once again for allowing me to come here and speak tonight about our instructional goings-on, if you will. It has been a crazy year in many ways, as you all know, but it's also been an exceptional year for innovation and opportunities to make a difference. And so I am really proud of the work we're doing, but I'll tell you, as any great leader knows, you hire great people and you get out of their way. And that's what I've done with Ms. Richards, and that's why she's here tonight. So I don't want to steal her thunder. I'm going to let her talk, but I can tell you she is without a doubt one of the best hires I have made as a principal. She has supported our teachers through thick and thin. She has been an Echo Award winner twice, 2 months in a row. I don't think that's happened. And she's earned it, and she deserves it. And I'm excited to have her talk about what we're doing at Goodson High School. So, Ms. Richards.
Thank you, Dr. Collier. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Raley, and Mr. Teague. I'm just honored to be here tonight, along with Dr. Collier, to share the wonderful things that have been happening at Goochland High School. It has really been a pleasure. I don't know if many people can say that this year and everything that's been going on, but it has truly been a pleasure to serve the teachers of Goochland High School. And just being able to see the risk-taking, their creativity, the support that they not only have for each other, but for their students is just amazing. And in my role, I've been able to support teachers through job-embedded coaching and professional development and instructional planning. And the growth that I continue to see in just this year alone, even in this crazy year, has just been truly inspiring. This, of course, is not without the support of our admin team, Dr. Geyer, Mr. Katakachea, and the GCPS coaching team. And it really just speaks to, I think, the high level of instruction that we continue to have, and the student experiences that we're able to provide our students. So I hope that you'll be able to see this in the video that we've prepared tonight. And so without further ado, we'll start the video. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I could have done that. It's okay. Oh, there it is. Oh, there.
This year has been a challenging year in many respects. And I try to tell this to my students as well as my daughter, that sometimes the most challenging circumstances can be the circumstances and situations that allow us to grow the most. One of the ways that I found this year that has been transformative, and it's a tool that I will continue to use for years to come, and I'm smiling because probably everyone who is on any email list has seen me post about this 100 times, but it's Desmos. Desmos is a tool that allows me to see on a moment-by-moment basis what my students are doing, how much they're understanding. For example, when I'm teaching a new lesson or new content, I might ask students, as I'm speaking in Spanish, just to quickly type a summary of what I'm saying and type it in English so that I immediately see what they're understanding, where there are gaps, and how I can provide them with more scaffolding and structure, which is incredibly important regardless of your teaching situation, but in particular when we're in this hybrid and virtual learning environment. I as I said, I really look forward to continuing to use this tool and lots of the strategies that I've learned over the course of the past year for years to come.
One of the best parts of science class is always the hands-on labs. It's so much fun for students to really be able to see how what they're doing, how the content connects to the real world, and how they can actually do these reactions and see these things happening right in front of them. So one of the big things with learning this year has been figuring out the best way to have those labs still take place in the hybrid setting. One of the great ways we've been able to do it in chemistry this year is by using teams. So the in-person students will be the team captain per se, and they'll have a few virtual students who are on their team at home. So they actually are able to do the lab as they would in a normal setting, bring the chemicals together, perform the reactions, while the at-home students are able to do things like there'll be someone making observations, a couple people reporting data, someone might be a timer, so they all have specific roles at home to really work as a team and collaborate to make the lab happen, while also getting to interact with their peers and actually see the lab happening as they would if they were in the classroom.
A lesson that we have done this year has been inspired from one of my absolute favorite TED Talks by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie about the danger of a single story, which essentially teaches us how our perspectives could be different from other people's perspectives and how stereotypes can exist and they're also incomplete. So one of my favorite assignments that we did last year that I wanted to carry forth into this year from feedback from former students was to do the same lesson. Students pick their own topic, a stereotype that they've heard about or that maybe they have believed in the past. They research it, they write a paper about it, complete student choice, and then when we come back from winter break, I group the students based on similarities that I've seen in their papers to make podcasts. This year, I was really excited to do this because Anchor is a really great app that I have found actually from a former student, and it allows you to collaborate both in person as well as remotely. So students were able to still collaborate based on their focus and their passion and what they were really excited to talk about and create some really awesome podcasts that
So cool.
are now available on Spotify.
I really enjoy working with students using Google Slides. Using Google Slides through Schoology, but mostly just being able to create lessons that are manipulative friendly and interactive. And then with Google Slides, I can also watch the students doing the things that I'm hoping they're able to do. So one of the lessons that I created was working with students on slope and linear equations and how the question or the problem works with what information you put on the graph and then how you identify the information that you've put on the graph.
So back in the summer, we were thinking about ways on how we could recreate the theater experience but do it virtually. And over the summer, I took a couple of workshops through Educational Theater Association. It's the organization that houses our thespians. And they had one on virtual productions. And so through that, I got the idea of creating a virtual production for the show It's a Wonderful Life. So how we got kids involved was we used our Schoology group. We had our awesome student board members just reach out to all their friends and just say, hey, like, be a part of this. You can be on crew. You can be an actor. And so what we did was try to create a very similar experience to what the kids would get in a live theater setting, but to transition it for a virtual space. So rehearsals took about 6 weeks with the kids. We would rehearse everything on Google Meet, and then the kids asynchronously would go off and film their own scenes by themselves. And the way we kind of coached them and directed them was saying, all right, we use a lot of what we call stage areas, which are parts of the stage. And so we'd say, all right, imagine you're on stage, so look to stage right, or look to stage left. And so giving them those context clues allowed them to remember it and then film it as by themselves with their parents reading the lines. And so then when we got to the editing process, which took us about a good month and a half, we had the kids then edit out their parents' voices. Although if you secretly hear, you can hear some parents in the background. And then they would match the videos together and to make it create like they're actually on stage together. And then we use digital backdrops to create kind of like the scenery, if you will. So it was a great experience, and then we streamed it 3 times on the weekend, first weekend of December, and it worked out really well. And I'm very proud that we got to do that for this fall production.
So it was a real interesting challenge this year to come up with ways to deliver content, keep students who are used to being up and doing things engaged, and also to have a little fun while we were doing it. So a couple things that worked real well for me this year. We did a series of chef demonstrations. I called them Chef's Booth's Kitchen. And every Friday we would have a special guest come down from the high school, Miss Richards or one of the principals or somebody. And they would sit in on a demo that I did for the students, manning the chat on the video. And we would throw a series of questions at the students, and every time a student got an answer right, we would mark down that they got the answer right. And it was a way for them to earn some bonus points, but it was also a way to keep them engaged in what was going on. It was a lot of fun to read some of the comments or to answer some of the questions while it was going on. And that worked out really well, especially at the beginning of the year when everybody was virtual, and we were really scrambling for how are we going to teach CTE like that.
Just a little glimpse into the great things that are happening, you know, from our teachers, our students every day. So we're so proud of them, and proud to share that with you.
Yeah. So I think that the hard part was trying to figure out who was going to go in the video, and I think you know,
we had more than
enough,
so.
And we're like, man, we missed that. But I think one thing that's cool too is, you know, most years I'll bring one teacher in here, and you'll see one lesson or get to hear from about one lesson. And you can see there's so much going on that's great. And so we were excited to share that. And Ms. Richards, thank you so much for your work on this and working with our teachers and making Goodson High School a great place to live and learn. So thank you. Any questions for us?
Board members?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I just have to say one thing, because you're talking about bringing a teacher in person to a board meeting in the past, and now virtually so many more. But it speaks to the climate and the academic environment that's there. When I see kids, you know, volunteer to create a theater production, when I know what they go through when it's in person, and to still want to do that virtually and all the other lessons, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
We had a pretty great foundation to start from.
Yes. Mr. Teague.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say a couple things about, number one, Miss Richards. I met her last year, at the beginning of last year, and no one knew who she was, but she was so present and in our classrooms, and it's like the 3rd time I had seen her in this classroom, and I had a problem with Schoology. I needed to communicate with my class, being my class president, and she was immediately ready to give me access to Schoology and an admin, which is kind of a big thing, and immediately trusted me in that and was ready to just take on what I needed. In that video, we saw a couple people, including Clay Coddington, who was a teacher I had last year, and we worked on that danger of a single story, and she really taught us how to be passionate about the work that we were doing and to choose a stereotype or something that we saw. And so me and classmates got to partake in that and using Anchor to create those podcasts, which are on Spotify now, even before we were out of school by the end of last year. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was Mr. Birch, our theater educator. He talked about his student leaders on his thespian board. I am blessed to be one of them. And watching them come together through that virtual production was incredible. Watching all people that were talented in tech areas of all staff members and students come together to meet the needs of people that are so invested in the arts was so, so neat. And it was done seamlessly and incredibly like everything else this year. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things. So thank you.
Wow. Wow. All I can say is, educators are people I want to be around. The energy that you feel, this is just a video. The energy that you could feel coming off that video just is only minimal to what's happening in that classroom. So thank you so much, and thank you for that, the courage to try something new. And I love that so many teachers are excited about, wow, I found this and I'm going to keep doing this. Now, I guarantee you those same teachers are going to find something else really cool because they're not going to stop at just that. So I do have one question. This was about instruction, but I also know that you're doing some great things with your counselors. So can you talk just briefly about what students and the counselors are doing right now?
Certainly. So we are very proud this year that our counselors are actually involved in academic career planning meetings with every single student at Goodson High School. So 840 students are having individual meetings with their counselor to talk about their academic and career plans for the future, their course scheduling and requests. And so they're really getting that individualized attention to make sure that they are ready for whatever's next in life. And we're excited about that, excited about the work. It's been a lot of time taken up, and they've been relieved of lunch duty, which has been great for them. I think they've loved that. But I think the one thing that they've found is how rewarding these conversations have been for them, not just with the students whom they get to the opportunity to speak with, but also their parents, and really making that connection at home too. It takes a village, and so we're proud of the work we're doing and continue to do, and we'll continue to do in the future.
Wow, thank you. There's a lot of depth in that team, Dr. Ray.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here tonight and for this wonderful presentation.
Couldn't do it without y'all's support. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Wow.
Let's just keep on rolling. So board members, I'm going to ask Dr. Steve Geyer to come to the podium, and board members, as he walks up to the podium, just framing this conversation a little bit. When you approved your strategic plan in June of this past year, I guess June of 2020, one of the objectives associated with that plan is challenging the traditions of time and space, and how can we look at providing additional learning opportunities for students. And so you know that since August 24th, we have been extremely creative in maximizing the potential of every learner and finding ways to make sure that students are successful. And so what Dr. Geyer is going to do this evening, he's going to provide some information about some short-term opportunities, provide additional opportunities for students looking into the summer, but looking long-term beyond that, and how we can really recreate the traditions, be innovative as a school division, challenge the status quo, and rethink some of the structures associated with school. And so excited to be able to have this conversation publicly this evening, start to talk about what this may look like for us in the future, and start to have this conversation. So Dr. Geyer, it's all yours.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Dr. Raley, members of the board, including our student school board member. Really excited to have the opportunity to present this evening and feel like it fits really nicely with some of the presentations that have come before. The vibe in the room today is so positive. I'm excited to be a part of it standing at the podium today. And so, as Dr. Raley said, I'm going to cover quite a bit of ground in the presentation, try to do it as efficiently as possible, and really provide a summary of the expanding opportunities for students really since the interruption last March, and provide kind of an overview and summary of those opportunities. But then as I get into forecasting potential opportunities down the road, dig in a little bit more on one of those opportunities and have a little bit more in-depth discussion as we move into the what opportunities are out there in the future portion of the presentation. And so as Dr. Raley said, I'm going to organize this in a way that I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the short term, and you all know a lot has happened since last March to continue to expand opportunities for students, and a lot of those opportunities are expanding in-person opportunities, moving closer and closer to having all of our students back in person. And so that will continue in the short term, which in this case we're really kind of considering from now until the end of the school year. In the medium term will really be to give you an overview of some of the opportunities that will be in place for students over the summer. And long term is really from the beginning of next school year on, and that's when we'll dig in a little bit on one of those potential opportunities. And so really currently, as well as through the end of the school year, and of course the board is well aware of this, a lot of this is to provide an overview for our public, academic support during the instructional day and academic support outside of the instructional day. Those opportunities are happening for students across all levels. They're happening for in-person learners, and they're also happening in some pretty creative ways for students that continue to access their education from a distance. So excited about what we're able to provide students in terms of academic support. And the third bullet there, expanded opportunities for in-person learning. You know, there's some mention of that in some other presentations tonight. I think Chef Booth actually talked about a student who said, hey, I want to be back in person more frequently, and so that opportunity is there for students. And so there are lots of examples, in particular for students who have struggled, students with specific learning disabilities, students who English is not their first language, and students who are just struggling academically are being afforded the opportunity to expand their in-person learning and really have for the last few weeks. And so those opportunities are continuing, and they're continuing to bridge the gap for us between the shutdown last March and getting closer and closer to a fully comprehensive in-person experience for students. And really want to say, in line with what we've heard this evening, how amazing our team is for rolling with it and being creative with all of the changes that have happened this year. Certainly the board's well aware of the iterations of what school has looked like for students and for teachers and for support staff, and everybody has done an amazing job doing what's best for students, and super proud of our team. And then extracurricular activities. Obviously we just talked about drama and the opportunities associated with our drama program in this different kind of year for folks. Athletics, clubs, the fine arts, those extracurricular activities for students continue. In some aspects they continue in a distance environment, and in others we're out leading with programs that are happening in person where in many of our neighboring communities they're not happening in person. So a lot of opportunities for kids that we're really proud of. In terms of summer programming, and this presentation, as you all know, was finalized last week. There actually should be a couple more bullets on here because we're continuing to work creatively to find ways to support students this summer. But we will have an extended summer school program this year. It will be an additional week over what it has been in the past. We are going to introduce Kindergarten Countdown Camp. As you all remember, this time last year we were talking about that for last summer. And so that was put on hold, but we're excited for the partnership with the United Way, and just found out end of last week that we're going to be able to fund 2 sections of the Kindergarten Countdown Camp, which is really a precursor to kindergarten to give students who need that jump start prior to kindergarten the opportunity to come in successfully to kindergarten. So we're really excited about that partnership with the United Way. Power Scholars is a program in partnership with the YMCA. It provides some scientifically based curriculum for teachers to use in summer remediation programs. That will be associated with that extended summer school period that I mentioned previously. And we're going to continue on with our enrichment camps this summer. The fine arts team is really excited to have students in person for what will be our second ever fine arts camp. Last year would have been camp number 2, but this summer will be, and they're really excited about that. And our STEM camp, gosh, I think we're at year 10 maybe now for our STEM camp, and that will be an in-person experience too. That plans are underway for both of those camps. So that's exciting. The bullet that I referenced before that's not in here is we're also exploring ways to provide students who may still not be comfortable coming back for an in-person experience this summer, support from a distance. And so that should be bullet number 5 up there, is to continue to provide academic support for students who may continue to need that support, but in a virtual setting. And then finally, again, in summary, thinking about what opportunities are out there for the long term. And that really is thinking ahead to next school year. And I feel like we're always in that constant cycle of planning 6 months ahead, 12 months ahead. And you all are well aware we're certainly thinking long and hard and making plans for next academic year and then beyond. And so continuing to find ways to expand in-person learning. Dr. Raley and I co-authored a letter that went out to our community last week that forecasts some of our thinking around what we would like next school year to look like for students and for staff. We're going to have an emphasis certainly on literacy and math support. We know that that is needed. That was needed pre-pandemic, and that's always going to be needed because we know those are foundational skills for students to find success throughout their lives. And specifically, thinking about introducing academic interventionists at our elementary schools next year will have a big impact on that literacy and math support for some of our youngest learners. So those are some real concrete examples of plans to expand opportunities for students moving forward. And then the final bullet is the bullet we're going to dig in on just a little bit more this evening, and that's the idea of exploring the benefits of a balanced calendar. And so if you're new to the term, we'll talk a little bit about what does a balanced calendar mean, and we'll get into the weeds a little bit to explain some of the potential that's there related to the benefits that it could have for learning. So we'll dig in a little bit on balanced calendar. And to set the stage for why even have this conversation around a balanced calendar, we're going to look at some data. And you all know some data presentations are 50 slides and 75 slides in the past, I think. This portion of the presentation could also be 50 slides. It's 5 to try to summarize some of the high points that I think are worth digging in on in terms of data. So narrowed it down to just 5. I'll spend a little bit of time on each one providing some context. And so I'm going to characterize kind of the answering the question of why consider a balanced calendar in 2 different ways. One is consideration around a balanced calendar. There was evidence to do that prior to the pandemic, and I'll talk about some of that evidence. And there's evidence to do that, frankly, because of the pandemic and the disruption to student learning. And so the first one, you've seen a graph that looks like this in previous data presentations. And just to provide some context for the public, certainly the board's well aware, but we administer the MAP assessment in math and reading 3 times a year, in the fall, in the winter, and in the spring. It's an individualized computer adaptive assessment. So if everyone in this room sat down and took the assessment in the fall, each assessment actually adapts in terms of the difficulty level of questions as each of us as individuals answers those questions. So by about question 6, Mrs. Horn's question 6 is going to be different than my question 6. And I'm sure Mrs. Horn's question 6 will be much more difficult than my question 6 because she will have gotten the first 5 correct. And the test continues on that way, and then when it is administered again, it picks up where each individual student left off. And so it is an individualized growth measure. And the reason I'm taking a minute to kind of remind folks of that is we should look at this data not in the way we're used to looking at data when it comes to things like pass rates for an SOL test, where we're accustomed to 80%, 90% pass rates being what we would strive for. 100% obviously would be what we would strive for, but we're accustomed in Goochland to seeing 85, 90% pass rates. The MAP assessment is nationally normed. And so by virtue of the fact that thousands and thousands of kids across the country are being given this assessment, and then it's normed statistically, it creates that natural bell curve. So you're going to have that natural distribution every time that assessment is given. And so what MAP tells us is we would expect student percentiles to be somewhere between 40 and 60, which is right in that middle part of the bell curve. And the board, again, we've had this discussion many times in the past. So you see numbers in our school division that are really impressive when you look at percentiles, in many cases here with the example of math, actually above the 60th percentile on average. Statistically, that's very impressive. And so why is this related to the question of balanced calendar? And again, this has nothing to do with coronavirus or the shutdown of schools in March and the transition back to hybrid and in-person learning. It's because we see every year average percentiles drop over the summer. And so when students are tested in the fall and then they're tested again in the spring, if you follow that chart across the bottom from left to right, you see fall to spring every year, average percentiles climb. And every summer, average percentiles drop. Now, the slope differs. Some years you see extreme climbs. Some years you see extreme drops over the summer. Some years during the academic year you see slopes that are maybe a little flatter, but still climbing. And so suffice it to say, summer slump is real. We know that summer slump is real. And this captures that in a really significant way and a really reliable way because this is a nationally normed assessment in the area of math. I did want to note, and it's highlighted there, winter 19. Obviously, we did not have spring data last year. So the one anomaly in this graph is it's fall 19 to winter 19, whereas every other piece of the data that you see here is a fall to spring and then a spring to fall. So I did want to note that. But what's obvious is progress over the academic year, decline over the summer. No surprise, but reason for potentially exploring, as Dr. Raley said, how we allocate our instructional time differently. This data is set up the same way. This is for reading. And so you see average percentiles for our students climb during the academic year and fall during the summer. The next set of data. This looks like a lot. I'm going to do the best I can to unpack this a little bit. This is really, in my mind, the case for the best illustration of why have this conversation coming out of a pandemic. So the previous two slides were designed to provide some context for the summer slump, which has been around long before the pandemic. This shows a little bit more of the impact of the last 12 months or so. And so this is the same map data specific to reading in grades 2 through 8. And so again, without getting too much into the weeds, you would expect, because our students' data is nationally normed against all of the other students across the country that are taking the map assessment, that we would have about 50% of our students who from winter to winter, their percentile is decreasing, and we would have about 50% of our students going from winter to winter whose percentile is increasing. And so that is sometimes tough to wrap your head around, and any of our heads around. And why that's challenging is because we think about everybody kind of climbing. And so while growth is happening for students, they're then being put right back into the same pool of all of the students across the country who took this assessment. And every time the NWEA map renorms the percentiles, everybody's put back into that same bell curve. And so what you would expect over time is if I'm scoring at the 50th percentile, then year over year, I would continue to score somewhere around the 50th percentile. And Mrs. Horn might score at the 90th percentile. Somebody might score at the 10th percentile. You would expect from year to year that those percentiles would not change too much. They might go up a point or two, down a point or two. And one of the reasons we love the map assessment is it really allows us to see if we're changing that trajectory for students. And so ideally, we do want to see those percentiles grow. But remember, all the other students across the country are going to school as well, and they are learning as well. And so you're not going to see a ton of variation. So what we would expect here is in any given year, about 50% of our students, the way I've illustrated it here, would be in the green, and about 50% of our students would be in the red. I hope that makes some sense. So we would see that across this chart. And what we see in our school division, we should be really, really proud of, and this is the impact of the instructional program, is that we see that we're exceeding that. We have more students than you would expect whose average percentile is actually growing over time. Again, that's different than learning. Everybody's learning, but to go from the 51st percentile to the 54th percentile, for example, then there are all those other students in the country who essentially that child is jumping over while everybody else is growing as well. And so that's that margin really between what we would expect and what we're actually seeing in our school division. So if I've done any justice to that, then what you should focus on in this information is that space between that 50% mark and anything that we're doing better than that or doing worse than that in terms of performance. And so what you see over time is historically we outperform what we think what statistically we would expect. In particular, 2018 to 19, that's a significantly positive year in terms of reading performance. And so I bring this up to say from 2019 to 2020, again, this is winter to winter, so last winter to this winter, that's the thinnest margin we've seen historically in our school division. That doesn't mean it won't bounce right back, and we'll see something maybe more like 2018-19, but the beginning of a little bit of concern to say, hey, we're getting closer to that mark that we would expect statistically for us to be at. That's reading. The same data and what NWEA said would be the impact of the disruption to education is the impact is actually greater in math, and this is the case across the country. And so here's our same data in grades 2 through 8, same 5-year trend, and what you can see by looking at that same area that we really want to focus on when we look at these numbers is for the first time ever, in math, we actually see more students decreasing their average percentile than increasing. And it's the first time in either the reading assessment or the math assessment in our school division that we've seen that. And so likely indicative of the disruption of learning over the last 12 months. And I will just give you a little bit of my own kind of anecdotal thinking around it as an educator and as a dad. A lot of kids continue to read on their own. A lot of kids like reading. There are a lot of opportunities in lots of different venues for students to read. Math often is reliant solely on direct instruction and getting kids engaged in math content. They're not necessarily going to continue on with that when it's not part of their structured experience. And so it makes sense in my mind that we would see a greater impact in the area of math. And what's so challenging about this to look at is look at the 18-19 year and the amazing, amazing work where a full 65% of our students, again, we would expect 50, and in any given year we would expect 50% of our kids to increase their percentile. We saw 65% from 2018 to 19. And then carry that forward to this year for the first time we're actually kind of in the wrong direction. And so I would say this is more directly related to the pandemic and another reason for a discussion around a balanced calendar. And then the last one, I told you there were 5 slides around data. This is slide number 5. And this is looking at something totally different than what we just looked at. I will say that I believe, you all know how much I believe in that MAP data because of the statistical significance around it being nationally normed and individualized for each student. This is very different. These are grades, but everybody can relate to grades. And so these are percentage of semester 1, the first semester course grades of F for students in grades 6 through 12. And so I actually did some quick math thinking about what this would, so how many grades are we talking about? For our students in grades 6 through 12, if they have on average 7 or 8 classes, most of the time 8 classes, where they're receiving a semester grade, it's about 11,000 grades in any given semester. And so this year, first semester, 9% of those 11,000 grades were Fs. And you see the trend over the last 5 years, obviously significantly lower than 9%. And actually one of the things that's really awesome to see here is prior to the disruption, we were actually trending down. 4% to 3% to 2% is exactly what we would want to see. And so we were making some really great progress in this area, and then we saw a significant difference this year. And so again, this one, to me, there's no question that this is directly related to the disruption of the pandemic. And so those 5 slides, I hope, in terms of data, And again, this could have been 50. There's so much data that we could look at to make the case for this discussion, but I hope those 5 provide a little bit of context, both pre-pandemic as well as post-pandemic. And so I'm going to keep rolling ahead and get into a little bit this notion of a balanced calendar. And I'll certainly leave any time that you all have for questions. But so what does the term balanced calendar mean to our school community? I think it's really important that we put some context and definition to it, because it can mean lots of different things. And we will get into some detail here about what one possibility could be of a balanced calendar. I'll go ahead, for the sake of the public, I'll go ahead and read this. A balanced calendar maintains the core 180-day instructional program, but distributes those days differently. And because of distributing those days differently, it reduces the typical summer vacation, but provides a 2-week break between each of the 4 quarters of the academic year, which may include intersessions for students and families. So that's a lot, and we'll break that down a little bit to provide some more clarity. The first kind of obvious question is, what's an intersession? And so an intersession is additional time built into the academic year when all students may participate in enrichment, corrective instruction, academic support, acceleration, or work-based learning experiences. These periods of time are breaks during the academic year for students who do not participate in the intersession. So what could this look like when you look at, in totality, a 12-month calendar? And we're going to hopefully capture that here in just a second, about what that could look like. Equally important is to dispel any myths around what a balanced calendar is not going to be in our school division. And so sometimes you'll hear year-round school synonymous with balanced calendar. And we want to be really clear that the discussion that we're interested in having does not mean year-round school. Again, we'll talk about what a balanced calendar could look like. It does not mean the end of summer vacation. I think that's one of the first things that comes to people's minds. It does not mean the end of winter break or the end of spring break. And it does not mean that we would have schools within our division operating under different instructional calendars. Whatever discussion we would have as a school division, we would move forward in a unified way to make sure that all 5 of our schools are on the same calendar. And then the last bullet is an important one. This is a discussion. This is kind of the introduction of this discussion. We are not considering any changes to next year's school calendar. So next year's school calendar is board approved, and you all plan to implement that instructional calendar as is for next academic year. So traditional calendar, this is just designed to illustrate in a visual way what we're used to and then what a balanced calendar could look like. So obviously these images, these icons, do not contain exactly 28 days in February and exactly 30 days and 31 days, but gives you an idea. Some of you write 29 days. I know that's an important day, Ms. Warren.
That's my birthday.
So this is what a traditional academic year looks like, right? We start back to school the last week in August, typically. We wrap up the first week in June. We have a couple weeks for the winter holiday. And obviously there's some other breaks throughout the school year, but that generally captures what a traditional academic year looks like. And so one of the options, and again, a balanced calendar can be sliced 100 different ways, but one of the options that may work in our discussion is a structure that looks like this. You have to kind of watch closely, but then I'll stop and share a little bit about what's changed, because not a lot changes, but some significant things change. So a potential balanced calendar pushes the start of the school year earlier, and it takes out some of those weeks. You see now some more kind of vacant spaces in the school year that create those opportunities for intercession that I described before. And so essentially what you see is at the end of the first 9 weeks, you have the opportunity for intercession 1. At the end of the second 9 weeks is our traditional winter break that we're accustomed to. At the end of the third 9 weeks, there's the opportunity for intercession number 2. And at the end of the fourth 9 weeks, there's the opportunity for intercession number 3. And so at the core, it's still that 180-day instructional day program. But there are potential significant benefits to reconsidering the calendar in this way, and we're going to talk about what those are. So what are the academic benefits? It distributes instruction across the 12-month calendar in a more balanced way, hence the name balanced calendar. And so really what it does is it shortens the distance between the end of one academic year and the beginning of the next. And we know that a big part of what we looked at before from a data standpoint is that notion of summer slump. And so it stands to reason that there would be less summer slump. It would reduce summer slump by making the end of one academic year and the beginning of the next closer together. So that's kind of one major element of the potential benefit of a balanced calendar. And then one of the probably the most significant is it builds in the potential for 30 additional instructional days. And those are those intersessions that we talked about before, where all kinds of different things could be happening. And our intention, if we were to look at something like this, would be to make sure that there are opportunities for all students, and that students that feel like they could benefit from those intersession days have the opportunity to do so. Maybe enrichment, maybe academic support, maybe work-based learning placement. But really what it does is it frees up some flexibility within an instructional calendar that frankly, mired in the traditions that we're used to, just isn't there. There isn't that flexibility to do those things that we know students would benefit from. And so that intersession piece is a significant part to the potential academic benefits. What are the other benefits? And I know depending on the perspective you have different thoughts going through your mind about what folks are going to focus on in this discussion. So those are some of the academic benefits. Some of the other benefits, it maintains a summer break. Instead of a 10.5-week summer break, it could be a 6.5-week or 7-week summer break. But there's still a summer break. It introduces a fall break, which could be a benefit to families. It provides the opportunity for that intersession that I talked about before. So it provides those additional opportunities for student learning. It also provides our instructional staff members with opportunities for additional compensation. So obviously one of the things that we will be talking about over the next several months is the funding piece associated with this. If we're going to extend opportunities for student learning, then we have to have instructional staff to facilitate those opportunities for students. So the opportunity for extended contracts that would benefit faculty members not only with an increased salary, but also with increased VRS benefits as well. And then the last piece that I want to make sure we don't lose sight of is that these discussions are called for in our strategic plan, which obviously we believe in. And one of those strategies is to reconsider the variables of time, location, and opportunity for learning. If we've ever reconsidered those variables, it's this year. Not by our own accord, but we certainly have reconsidered those. And this would be another iteration potentially of that conversation around the distribution of instructional time for students. And so it is tied directly to, a conversation like this is tied directly to our strategic plan. And so with that, as I mentioned, I think we covered a lot of ground. Happy to answer any questions that you all have and appreciate the opportunity to share.
Well, we've talked about this type of thing for many years. I think I can remember talking in 2012 about some of the ideas behind this, but I like how you have sort of differentiated this type of plan from a year-round, four-season, whatever you want to call it, school plan. This reminds me an awful lot of the college quarter system. Mm-hmm. It's very, very similar to that. And so I think it really provides some unique opportunities for us, which is, of course, what we're looking for. But I think it's also one that can easily be assimilated by our community. In other words, you're just talking about a couple of weeks here, little bits of things there. It's not the upheaval. What on earth are you going to do? And best of all, it is all 5 schools. So I really love the idea. I think it's great. I'm not sure where, I'm still fertilizing the money tree in the backyard.
Right.
But we'll figure things out. But I love the idea, and I love the way that you have massaged this so that it could work well in our community.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wright. And I don't deserve any credit for massaging. It's been a team effort. I will say our partnership with Eastern States Consortium, which is one of our best opportunities for professional growth as leaders. We have learned from some of our partners in Mississippi about some of what they're considering. And I will just say, as a parent and a community member, I've seen 100 different versions of balanced calendars. This structure that hopefully I captured tonight is the one that I can get on board with the most of any of the ones that I have seen kicked around. So like you just described, I feel a different way about this discussion than I did in 2012 about the notion of year-round school.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Sure.
Dr. Geyer, I was just going to say that the graph with the summer slump, when the red popped up and said summer, we knew that, but it was clearly evident that it's real when you showed that slide. And secondly, and thinking along the lines as Mr. Wright, there's so much that changed about this year. It is the best time ever to talk about change and how that can continue to maximize student potential and so forth. So I think it's a great idea, and I'll look forward to learning some more about this particular structure, but it's clearly evident that something different could work better.
Yes. Mr. Teague, you have any thoughts? Since this is probably the first time you've seen that, we've seen it a few times. What went through your mind as a student?
For sure. I've definitely talked to just like students on a broad level of, rumors about what are we gonna do, what's gonna be the best for us. That looked honestly good. I mean, it was shocking. I mean, and everything is shocking because everything's new. But I mean, it allowed that cushion space to take a break from school when it's necessary. It didn't take away summer break. I loved your slide talking about, and that's what I think I'm gonna have to do on a student level, of like, this didn't take away spring break, this didn't take away summer. It was really, really helpful, and I think that's a great, great, great plan to keep working on. So I really like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it keeps learning fresh.
Yes.
I think that's one of the ways to really look at it. And it keeps, you also have to remember our staff, our faculty who have families. And as a former teacher, I know that, gosh, sometimes you just feel like you're up here all the time. And to have those breaks like that is going to be extremely healthy, but also refreshing for our staff. But one of the other things that kind of went through my mind, I've shared with you guys before, I'm one of 5 children. So every year, the first day of school, my mother, as she sent us all off, we walked, sent us all off to school, we could hear her on the porch screaming hallelujah or something else, because summer is a long, long time for a family. So I was kind of thinking of my mom when you were sharing that. But the breaks, the fall break, I think people will really embrace. And one thing that I shared with Dr. Raley before, as more schools look at these opportunities, there's also going to be an economic impact. If you think about it, it's not just an educational impact. It's not just a family impact. It really is an economic impact to a community. So you think about, if people can only vacation in the summer because that's been their mindset, the places you go are very summer related. But now if you're spreading that opportunity for family time out throughout the year, that's going to open up opportunities for families to visit some other places they may not have had the time to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to change some communities in that way. So that's kind of an exciting piece. It's not something for us to worry about. It's not our focus is instruction and our children learning, but you think about that is an impact of a balanced calendar. But I think it can be a very positive impact. One of the things that I was thinking also is, we talk about being an innovative school division, and I know that we have taken on this year changing class rank and looking at that differently. The slide with the number of Fs is something that really, really bothered me. I think that we have to look at grading differently. This is a real opportunity to look at what does grades mean. We're a division that has looked at assessing growth, yet our grading system is still very much on this comparison. You know, a grading system is about comparing and did you reach this mark today? Somebody didn't, they got an F. What does that do to that child? And what does that do to that teacher? Because the teacher doesn't want to see the child failing either. Teachers work really hard to help that child get there. What does that grade really represent? And if it doesn't represent what we want it to do, what is the impact on that child and that teacher and that learning environment? What do families think when they see those grades? I mean, report cards are a big deal. So I think as we look at this, I'm super excited about this. I'm really jazzed about this. But I'm also very, very enthusiastic and very optimistic that we will also look at grading as a part of this.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Wright, you had something else?
I meant to say the first time through, but because my brain, I'm
It's just
that
so cool.
10% guy. No, I think the intercessions is really the leap forward in this.
Yes.
I really do think that it provides an incredible opportunity for remediation, which I think is sort of the low-hanging fruit of the idea. But truthfully, it really provides some fantastic opportunities for enhancement. So for a gifted kid or whatever, here's an opportunity, and maybe we don't have one STEM camp. Maybe we have 3.
Sure.
Right.
Maybe we have things that can get out there and allow people whose, I think about, and no offense to Hatcher, but you know, Caroline was talking last year about how she had to give up some things that she truly loved because she was focused on being one of the top candidates from Gooseland schools, wants to go to Ivy League, doing all these things. So she gave up some things that she loved. Maybe she didn't have to, if this were the type of calendar that we had.
Yep.
Right.
And I will say, I mean, that just resonates so much with me. I don't know that I've said this publicly, but the 180-day piece, it's just rearranging the deck chairs if you don't do something with those intercessions. And that's, to me, where, in my role, that's the excitement. Like, what amazing things could we do for kids during those potential of 30 days? Otherwise, it's just taking your 180 days and just distributing them up a little bit differently.
Right.
So again, you may see some benefits in not having that sustained summer break, but really where you're going to see the benefits of a potential calendar like this is the intercessions. And it speaks a little bit, as we plan to move forward, about the money tree you mentioned, because those programs and those opportunities will be new and more than what we have done before. But that's what's so exciting about it, is the fact that we will be able to provide students with new and more opportunities than we ever have before.
Right. And I also see the link between what Dr. Collier was talking about, those individual conversations with students. What is your next step?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine those intercessions, aligning mentors with those students' goals, aligning teachers that have the same passion for something
Yes.
other than what's on the curriculum, and really, again, helping kids move forward to their goals. The intercessions are super exciting.
Yep.
And there's choice
Yes.
there.
Yep.
We're offering choice for students, we're offering some choice for staff, and maybe Dr. Raley would like to speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so board members, we're thankful for the energy and thankful for your openness to this concept, and this energizes us as staff that we can have an opportunity to lead in so many ways. And if you have no objections, we'd like to move forward with socializing this in some other settings. Now that we've had this public presentation, opportunities to talk to students, school leadership teams, parent groups, and ultimately get feedback from our community and understand what questions they may have. Some work to be done here in the next couple months leading into a July work session with the board. and then coming into the fall of the year, opportunities to expand those conversations broadly and generally and start to crystallize any sort of approach for a mid to late fall approval potentially by the school board. And so we want to, if this is the direction that we ultimately go, we want to provide as much advance notice to our families as possible. And so hearing your comments this evening, if there are no objections, we'd like to move forward with having this conversation in some other settings and getting feedback from various stakeholder groups.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it. And I know that parents and families will, and I think about some of the things we were talking about tonight, how teachers have given more than they thought they ever could, how students have given more than they thought they ever could, how families have given more than they thought they ever could. And you're looking at this calendar, you're not thinking more, you're thinking, this is possible. This is possible. It is the right time to have this conversation because we can do more than we think we can, and we can include the individual needs of students more as we have learned this year.
Yes, ma'am.
So really super exciting.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Geyer.
Thank you.
Dr. Geyer's next on the agenda as well, and just for the benefit of the public, we are in the process of reviewing science instructional materials, and we have an internal committee that is doing that. And once we narrow that selection down to some recommendations, we're going to invite the public to provide us with some feedback for the public's consumption. There's some information included in the packet. We certainly welcome the feedback of our community as we're developing these resources. We want to make sure that they're aligned with the standards while also listening to our community about community's expectations related to this content. So Dr. Geyer, anything that you want to add?
No presentation, mercifully, just to say that we are working through the process, as Dr. Raley said, and we always have a public review period. Mrs. Bennett, if you don't mind scrolling, I think it's the last page.
Very last thing.
The dates are on there. It's the end of April into the beginning of May. We'll advertise this in the newspaper as well as on our division sites through school messenger calls, but always welcome our community to come and review materials that we're considering as primary resources in our instructional program. And so those will be available for public review that last week in April and first week in May.
Will people need to call and make an appointment to be there so we know that how many people are in that space at the same time? What will we be doing for mitigation?
Yeah, we
at
will.
that time?
We'll provide some more detail as we get closer. At this point, based on historical interest, we don't expect to be overwhelmed. We
Okay.
always have folks come, but
I'm being optimist.
it's always a handful of folks. So I don't think it will exceed what I'll call a handful. But we will certainly take that into account and make sure that we're doing it safely.
Yeah. Board members, I'm sorry, Ms. Warren, please.
I was just going to say maybe just a message on the door to look. And,
Yes.
And,
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
I guess I want to really bring your attention to the rubric that's included in this agenda item. Please focus on that as this is really putting our words into practice.
Yep.
Where we're looking at these instructional resources through the lens of equity, where we're looking at our resources based on inclusive concepts, that we're looking at diverse resources. And so, as you remember, Dr. Fowler last month, I believe it was, started to talk about making decisions through the lens of equity in our policies and our practices. And so as we are developing, we're going to spend a lot of money on some of these instructional resources. We want to make sure it's representative of our community, that we're aligning that with the board's equity goals and initiatives that are in our strategic plan. So just wanted to highlight that as well this evening.
6 questions.
And Dr. Raley, I wanted to just say thank you for bringing that up. Ms. Richards is still here. Ms. Richards is not here, but I do want to thank our coaching team. This rubric in large part is thanks to our coaching team, and it's all 7 of them contributed quite a bit along with Dr. Fowler from the equity standpoint. But this is the most comprehensive instructional resource rubric that we have ever had in our school division. And it's our coaching team that really deserves thanks for putting it together. So this will serve us well not only for this review, but really with all reviews moving forward. So really excited about the rubric.
Absolutely. It's really a learning device as well, because
Absolutely.
people can see what really is it that you want from a text.
Yes.
So, and does it meet the outcomes of what your goals are?
Yep.
So, fantastic.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodness. This has been so great. I think we are back to Dr. Raley for
We're going to
information
continue to
items.
innovate, Ms. Horn, and so, included in your strategic plan, and I'm so thankful that we're coming back to our strategic plan because that is the roadmap for our future. And again, in our strategic plan, you have decided that you want to provide opportunities for our facilities to be sustainable, to look at renewable energy sources, and to be good stewards of our precious environmental resources. We have had conversations in this room about the opportunities for solar and how that might be able to reduce the school division's carbon footprint and at the same time save a few dollars along the way. You know that we've been investigating this for quite some time. Dr. Armstrong has been leading the effort, and we had a consultant working on our behalf. Mr. Newman has been a part of that conversation with some other community members who have some expertise in this field. And at this point in time, we would like to move forward with putting a request for proposals out on the public market for the installation of a solar array on top of our secondary complex. And what that will do is allow us to have that as an education tool to be able to reduce our electricity bills and then ultimately reduce our carbon footprint and be good stewards of the environment while developing some sustainable resources. So no decisions to be made at this point in time, board members. If there are no objections, we will move forward with getting the request for proposals out on the public market, evaluate the bids, and then ultimately bring a recommendation back to you for your consideration from there. So this is just one step along the way. It does not commit us to anything at this point in time. It's simply going out on the market and seeing what options and opportunities may be available.
Excellent. Options, opportunities, information. Excellent. Board members, any questions or comments? Mr. Teague, what do you think? As a student, what would that opportunity bring for you?
I think that would be an incredible learning opportunity about that. I mean, we don't know much about that. Our solar panel that we have right now at the secondary complex we've been out there. I have, as a student, have been out there to not only look at that, but then also know that it's benefiting our school and setting an example. And you guys and the school, the physical school, is setting an example for us, the next generation. I think that'd be an incredible opportunity for many things, and so cool. I mean, how many people get to be like, yeah, we have a solar panel at our school? I don't know, but those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right. Anything else, sir? All right. That brings us to action items. And board members, I would like to, ask Dr. Rowley to speak a little bit on the resolution for outdoor sporting events that we're presenting this evening.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Horn, and I appreciate the board's consideration of this resolution. And as you know, our mission is to maximize the potential of all of our division's learners. And right now, we are currently handcuffed by the governor's current executive order, which limits opportunities for our students to participate in outdoor experiences. Specifically, right now, there are some limitations on who are considered as participants in outdoor events. Specifically for the current season, right now, believe it or not, cheerleaders and members of our band are not considered participants. They are considered spectators. And so the current executive order limits the attendees at any sort of outdoor sporting event to 250. And it's contrary to what some may think, that those who are participating in a traditional Friday night football game, who are part of that experience in the band or cheering, are considered spectators, when the Virginia High School League clearly says that these individuals, these student athletes, are athletes, and that members of our marching band have worked so hard to be able to participate as participants in the events associated with a Friday night football game. And then you think about the inequities, where you have males who traditionally participate in football who are considered participants, but females are not considered as participants. And then an additional inequity is that entertainment venues may have upwards of 1,000 people, but a high school football game is limited to 250. There are multiple inequities in the current governor's order. It creates concerns for our students who have worked so hard to participate, and their families who have suffered as well as their children have been preparing for these important events in their lives. And so, board members, this resolution that is presented to you this evening challenges the inequities associated with the governor's current order. It establishes your viewpoint and perspective as elected members of this community, where you are stating your belief about the inequities associated with that order. And it sends a strong statement to the governor about what we believe in and our desire to have more students considered as participants and the ability for more of our families to see their children participate in these events. We have proven since October the 5th that we can safely mitigate inside our schools. We have had no school-wide spread of COVID. We have been able to check temperatures, wear masks, and do so many things to protect our occupants. We can provide a safe experience for our students and for our staff, and we're seeking the opportunity to do that for our families and for our children.
Wow, I think that says it. I believe that this is an action item, so do I have a motion from a board member, please?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second that we, as Goochland County School Board, approve the resolution for outdoor sporting events. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That says it all. Thank you so very much, board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for
Yes,
that
ma'am.
great explanation.
Yes, ma'am.
We are now at our second reading, and goodness, I think these policies were, did we look at these in February? The first part of February? It's been a little while, I think, since we had our first reading on these, but we are ready now for our second reading review of a large set of very important policies. So do I have a motion from a board member?
Madam Chair, assuming that we don't have any substantial differences between first and second reading, which I believe to be the case, I move that we approve all of the policies under action item 17B as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, or does anyone, as Mr. Wright pointed out, have any comments about any changes? I believe we've settled it up. All right, excellent, thank you. So, motion and a second to approve on second reading policies JFCA, AE, JFHB, GBAA, GBAA/JFHB, DJF, KQ, EFB, JO, policy KNB, KBA, LC, and LCF. Told you it was a long string. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, fantastic. All right, we are now to items for board review. We have another amazing strategic and tactical plan report, as well as an attendance and enrollment update. So I would first like to say on the strategic plan and tactical plan report that it's mentioned the registration for preschool. Excellent. We definitely want to get our kids, and I see this a lot of places, so it's well publicized, so I look forward to a large number of students next year. Summer school programs. SATs are this week, so good luck to students taking SATs. And looking forward to seeing the Windows Learning About Other Experience and Mirrors Personal Connections project. So that's a Windows and Mirrors project. Those were some of the things I noted on that. Does any board member have any other items that they found of interest? All of them? Anything else to point out? All right. Okay, very good. And attendance and enrollment update, any questions on that for Dr. Raley? Anything you would like to point out on that, sir?
No, we have a greater number of students who are attending this year compared to last year, and what we're trying to do is work towards engagement. There's a difference between attendance and engagement, so students are attending, but we want to make sure that they're engaging with the content, and that's our challenge as we finish strong at the end of the year.
And our final measurement was last week, is that right, for the ADM?
March 31st.
March 31st?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, coming up at the end of the month.
I thought it was the first. Sorry.
That's
Yeah.
a big day.
Yeah, it is a big day.
Awesome. Anything else I need to do with those? We're good? Okay, awesome. We are to our committee and board reports. Dr. Guy, I'm going to start back in that corner with you, sir.
This morning I'll be brief. We had a Reynolds Community College Board meeting last week, and just a couple items to share with the board. I'm sure folks are aware that community college enrollment across the country has declined over the last year plus. Reynolds is no different. They presented some statistics around student enrollment, and from fall of 2019 to fall of 2020, this past fall, overall enrollment declined by 1,200 students at Reynolds.
Hard to believe.
So unfortunate, and obviously going to present some challenges from a financial standpoint. So Dr. Pando and her staff are working through that. I did also want to mention that I've talked in the past about the reorganization within the leadership at Reynolds since Dr. Pando took over, and they did fill kind of their last senior leadership position here in the last couple months. Dr. Risha Berry has been selected as the inaugural position of Vice President of Organizational Development and Human Resources. And Dr. Berry comes from Virginia Commonwealth University, has degrees from VCU and a degree from Virginia State University. So great new addition to the team. Don't know Dr. Berry yet, but did want to share that with the board. And the other thing I do want to mention, because of this item on the agenda, you all are aware that I'm convening a special committee on homework to unpack homework. Students on that committee, staff on that committee, parents on that committee. We've had 2 meetings to date. We have our 3rd meeting coming up at the end of the month. And the end of the road with this committee will be to bring the school board a draft proposal, updated, modernized proposal on homework. And so just wanted to give you all an update that we've met twice, and our 3rd meeting will be the end of March. And I look forward to talking to you all about the work of the committee in the coming months.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Armstrong, you've been so patient.
I have nothing to report. We'll meet again next month for our Facilities and Safety Committee.
Thank you. All right. Mr. T.
Yes. So many things that I had planned to bring tonight were already presented. We are so blessed. I mean, the things that I'm sitting in this chair and I'm like, oh my goodness. A couple things that I did want to highlight and come back to is our counseling team gearing up for next year. I mean, I had a 30 to 45 minute meeting with Ms. Farrell, who's new to the team this year. And she was able to sit down with me, look at my goals, look at her goals for me and how to grow me as a student, my plans for next year and how to get there. It wasn't, okay, this is where you want to be, but it was like, okay, how can we help you as a team? And that was incredible. We talked about next year and special things. It being senior year was fun and a lot of cool things to talk about. I also wanted to talk about my personal favorite season in the life of a student. Homecoming season and festivities like that is shortly approaching, which is super duper exciting. I hope that you guys get to be involved in any way in that. You guys were quite present in the past couple of years, which has been one of my favorite things to see. That's my favorite thing in the world. So I'm so excited and I'm so happy to report about that next month and how that goes. So yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Mr. Newman.
Just one thing, the Goochland Education Foundation did have a virtual meeting on February 16th, and 3 key things from that. The gala is scheduled now for March 11th, 2022. There was a program offering mini grants this year that served 53 teachers, and an essay contest has been launched. That was the report. So I don't quite know what the theme of that is or how that's gotten out. But, and then I did participate in one webinar on insulated concrete forms, and that was pretty interesting, thinking about building a school at Ever. Fascinating, but that's my report.
Great. Thank you, Mr.
know how to
Newman.
live, my friend.
Now, wait a minute. Some of us really get excited about ICF. I will tell you. Dr. Rayleigh, we're just going to move on down here. So
Thank you, Ms. Horn. And so Mr. Wright and I are part of the support team for Maggie Walker. And so as a part of that support team, we're going to assist Maggie Walker in the recruitment of their assistant director. Our human resources team is going to assist Dr. Lowry, the director there, in that recruitment. So again, thanks to Demetra Harris, who's been mentioned several times, in jumping in and being a part of that team to support Dr. Lowry's work. I will share for the benefit of the public that we are working to provide a prom opportunity for our kids this spring. We don't know where it's going to be or what it's going to be or what it's going to look like, but we are going to give every effort that we can to provide our students a prom. And more to come on that, but we are really excited about hopefully providing that opportunity. And to Hatcher's comments, we have 2 home football games coming up soon, and I'm hearing rumblings that we're going to try to provide opportunities for kids to decorate the hallway, have a prom king and queen, and go through the traditions associated with homecoming. So excited about that, which will be awesome for our kids. And then graduation is on the horizon, board members, and so we expect to make an announcement here within the next 2 or 3 weeks or so that families can plan about that date, location, and what that's going to look like. So many things are going to happen this spring, and I know that our families, particularly our families of seniors, are wondering what is going to happen as the year comes to a close, but I can assure you that we're going to do everything that we can to provide an awesome experience for our seniors who have unfortunately not been able to participate in many of the traditions of a senior year. We're going to do it and do it well for them once we're able to make those public announcements.
thank you. I know a lot of folks are glad to hear that. Mr. Wright.
So Maggie Walker Board, you already heard we've got their associate director, or is it assistant? I don't recall. Who's going to be retiring, so we're helping out with that program. Dinwiddie has now officially been accepted in as the 14th school division, so a couple more cats to herd. It's anyway, that's a good thing to have. It's budget season for them. Their budget is really, main presentation is going to be next month. So that's coming along. They're returning to in-person instruction next Monday for the first time ever. That takes an enormous amount of coordination because of all of the different school divisions, what each school division is doing, not to mention transportation and all of the issues that come with that. So it's a big undertaking, and everybody was very excited about that. I think the other thing to note is that there was a bill in front of the General Assembly that tried to essentially have the state tell us how we were going to do admissions for the governor's school. That did not make it through the Senate Education Committee. It died right there, but it did make it through the House. So I would expect to see that sort of thing come back again. I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to, have local control. And that doesn't change the fact that the Maggie Walker Board is continuing to look into how to make that process, the admissions process, more equitable for everybody involved and have a greater reach into all of the school divisions that it represents.
Wow.
So that's it for me.
Exciting. Yes, Ms. Barefoot
Madam
Reed.
Chair, I have nothing to report.
All right, awesome. Let's see. Well, on Thursday, I was a guest reader for Ms. Kachina's grade 2 virtual class. And I got to tell you, that was pretty awesome. And I sat back for a little bit just to listen, and I was amazed at the language, the vocabulary of the students around the virtual platform. I've never even heard that word. It was just amazing. And to be able to read to the students and see each one of their faces, that was very powerful. So I really appreciate that opportunity. Due to weather and Monday holidays, the base group did not meet in February, but we will be having a meeting on March the 15th. So that coming Monday will be not base, ACE BASES are high school students. I get so excited about the fact that that group has done such great work. So ACE did not meet in February, and we will meet March 15th. The next quarterly meeting for Blue Ridge Virtual Governor School is May the 5th, and current students will be working through their actual course request process, and that's going to be March 10th, 11th, and 12th, so that's coming right up for those students. The Gifted Advisory Committee met virtually February 17th, and there was this amazing social and emotional learning panel. We had gifted teachers, school counselors, parents, our school psychologists, all providing information that would help parents to better understand their gifted students. And it was a great presentation, and it was very interactive, so that made it even better. The STEM committee met virtually on February the 18th, and plans for the STEM camp were discussed. So there will be a summer STEM camp, as well as the Conundrum Day that has been mentioned a couple of times this evening. This creative group of people have some great activities to share with our learning communities. And as far as Mr. Wright mentioned legislation, so the General Assembly did present quite a bit of legislation this year. We, as board members, one of the things that we do is to advocate when legislation is being presented. What is good for all school divisions, where we have to keep our local choice. We know our students better. And so we really do work alongside with the information and the legislators to try to support them as they work to make decisions that will directly affect our students. So I think that's everyone's reports. Great. Is there, board members, do you have any new business that you would like to present? No new business? All right. Seeing no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March the 16th at this location. So all those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. And there are no opposed available. So thank you very much. Thank you for everyone staying with us tonight, and I hope you enjoyed hearing from our candidates and from our staff. Great information about what's happening in our schools. So thank you very much, and have a good evening. Be safe.